Chapter 245. Su Zhan's return and breakthrough became a hot topic in Mate City within a day. Of course, there were also rumors about Su Zhan and Xiao Yang fighting over a woman. One had to say that the commoners in Mate City were very interested in these kinds of scandals. By nighttime, the story of these three people had already been made into a touching love legend by the bards in the city. Right now, the entire Su family was busy. Su Zhan's breakthrough made the disciples of the Su family even more motivated. To them, this was the most important step for the Su family to become the #1 family in Mate City. While the youngsters were busy cultivating, Su Ya and a group of elders had a long meeting in the conference room. This was an opportunity for the Su family to surpass the Xiao family. At the same time, there was a certain amount of danger. Once the Xiao family and the Zhao family united by marriage, the Su family's pressure would suddenly increase. Right now, in Su Zhan's courtyard. Different from everyone who was busy and nervous, General Su had a good nap during the day. Right now, he was hugging his wife and looking at the moon by the window. Su family only saw the small Mate City, but they knew that this was just a beginner's village for the female lead and male lead. By the time the female lead's rank increased, Mate City would welcome a beast tide. Long Qianzhan died in battle while fighting against the magical beasts. Before he died, he activated his Castellan's seal and summoned the emergency rescue order issued by the Arinda country's royal family to every Castellan. Once the token was summoned, the Royal Family Summoners Association members closest to Mate City would rush over here as fast as they could to rescue them. During this rescue mission, Su Wu, Xiao Yang, Long Li, and Su Zhan were chosen by the Arinda Royal Summoners Academy's teachers. Therefore, after the beast tide, the four left Mate City to start their own careers in the academy. This was the female lead's true path to power up. There were all sorts of geniuses gathered in Arinda country's imperial capital. Plus, there were many advanced magical beasts. As long as you had money, you could buy a magical beast you liked. Of course, whether or not you could tame it depended on your abilities. As for Su Wu, she had the ancient spell that Silvermoon White Tiger taught her. She could use her spell to subdue all magical beasts and divine weapons. Then, she could use it to summon magical beasts and weapons. With such a heaven-defying cheat, it was hard to keep a low-profile Tilda after the incident with Zun Randu. Su Wn no longer wanted to give the male and female directors a chance to rise. All dangers must be nipped in the bud. The initiative should always be in the palm of one's hand. How do you plan on dealing with Su Wu? Su Rui had never cared about Xiao Yang because the main character of this world was Su Wu. Don't make it sound so bad. That's your little sister. Little sisters are creatures that need love. Su Wan looked up from Su Rui's embrace. She looked at his thin and handsome side profile, her tone carrying a bit of laziness. I think we need to love and take care of her. Mate City is great. It's good to stay here for a lifetime. Don't you think so? You want to raise her to become a cripple? Su Rui's gaze flickered hearing Su Wan's words. She was a female assassin in her past life, cold-blooded and heartless. Plus, she already has abilities that others don't. She's ambitious and capable. There's no way she would stay in a small place like Mate City forever. Right now, her biggest cheat is the White Tiger. Let's start with the little White Tiger. General Su was the most experienced in dealing with divine beasts. Husband, I'll leave this great mission to you. Su Rui was speechless. The next day, the sun shone brightly. Su Wu woke up and touched the side of her bed out of habit. It's empty. She suddenly sat up, a cold glint flickering in her eyes. Where's Little White? Little White was gluttonous and lecherous. Usually, he would think of ways to get into Su Wu's embrace. Of course, he was the best at night ambushes. In the beginning, Su Wu wasn't used to having someone by her side. But Little White was small and his body was furry and warm. After a while, she got used to having a living creature in her bed. But Little White wasn't here today. Little White. Little White. Su Wu jumped off the bed and called out loudly. A crisp voice immediately rang from outside the door. Miss, Master took Little White away. Ah. Elder brother? Su Wu froze. Ever since Su Zhan came back, the siblings hadn't officially talked to each other. Suwoo was also afraid that Suzhon would find out that she was an imposter. Naturally, she was happy and relaxed. Since Suzhon didn't look for her, she didn't take the initiative to see her nominal elder brother either. On the other hand, the servants in the courtyard changed their attitude towards Suwoo after seeing that Suzhon came back. But speaking of which, why did her elder brother take Little White away? Suwoo thought about it but still couldn't let it go. Therefore, she changed her clothes and hurried to Suzhon's courtyard. Before she entered, she saw smoke curling up from the kitchen chimney. Su Liang actually started a fire in the courtyard early in the morning and was barbecuing meat. Wait, barbecuing meat? Suwoo looked at the suspicious object that was emitting oil. Her expression couldn't help but turn cold. Su Liang, what are you barbecuing? Magical beast meat. Master wants to eat it. Miss, do you want to eat it? Su Liang didn't even lift his head when he heard Suwoo's question. Barbecuing meat required a lot of attention. He had barbecued a lot of magical beast meat in the past 3 years. The higher the level of the magical beast, the more chewy and delicious the meat was. The spiritual influence in the meat was also great. Magical beast. Is it Little White? Did elder brother tell you to barbecue Little White? Hearing Su Liang's words, Suwoo immediately rushed over and grabbed Su Liang's collar tightly. Murderous intent filled her almond-shaped eyes. Su Liang was speechless. Who the hell was Little White? Could it be the dog that Master brought back this morning? Why are you guys making a ruckus so early in the morning? At this time, Suzhon's bedroom door was suddenly pushed open. Su Rui, dressed in black, carried Little White and stood at the door with a cold expression. Master, Wu, Master save me. Seeing Su Rui's figure, Su Liang couldn't help but cry. Eldest Miss suddenly became so scary. Master, hurry and save me. Seeing Little White lying docilely in Su Rui's arms, Suwoo couldn't help but sigh in relief. Elder brother, Little White is here. I'm here to look for him. Achem. Hearing Suwoo's words, Su Rui gently lifted his eyelids. Suwoo, I heard from Su Wan that you can summon an iron sword now? You're a beginner summoner now. Elder brother will train you well in the future. This low-level magical beast isn't suitable for you. Elder brother has already found a better one for you. When the time comes, I'll use a spiritual contract to help you summon it. In the future, no one in the Su family will dare to look down on you. Suwoo was speechless. Thank you so much. Elder brother. I like Little White a lot. I don't want other magical beasts. I just want him. Hearing Su Rui's words, Suwoo's gaze flickered and she immediately pretended to be reluctant. The assassin's acting skills were decent and he didn't have any flaws for now. Seeing Suwoo's reluctant expression, Su Rui immediately got angry. Girl, why don't you understand elder brother's painstaking efforts? Are you willing to be bullied by others? How can my sister be so useless? You're actually reluctant to part with such a low-level magical beast. You're too soft-hearted. What use do you have for such a useless magical beast? I'm going to kill it right now. Saying this, Su Rui started gathering spiritual power in his palm. Seeing that he was about to summon the purple Ming sword, Suwoo immediately became nervous. She knew that she wasn't Suzhon's opponent and she didn't dare to reveal her trump card in front of him. Therefore, she could only pretend to be weak right now. Elder brother, no. Elder brother, I know I was wrong. Suwoo interrupted Su Rui's actions. Just listen to elder brother's arrangements. Elder brother, please don't hurt Little White. Although it's useless, I like it a lot. Elder brother, you're the best. Why don't you keep it as my pet? I can't return it to you right now. When you become an intermediate summoner, come and talk to me again. Saying this, Su Rui turned around coldly and carried Little White back to his room. Seeing that her elder brother was so determined, Suwoo hesitated for a moment. Chapter 246. As a silver moon white tiger, Little White had always thought of himself as a superior existence. He was born tens of thousands of years ago and was already a rank 10 divine beast when he was born. Do you know what rank 10 means? The king of magical beasts in the Sunset Mountains was just a rank 9 magical beast that could transform into a human. Therefore, you know how powerful a rank 10 divine beast is now, right? However, it was useless. Little White could only be a magical beast guarding the door of the Sioux family. What do you mean he was born at the wrong time? It turned out that it was born during the Great War of Gods and Devils 10,000 years ago. At that time, although the divine race successfully sealed the devil race in the abyss of hell, the divine race also suffered huge losses. At that time, all the mythological beasts were sealed by the Devil King, and more than half of the gods fell. With the retreat of the divine race, the other races on the continent prospered. Now, half of the continent belonged to the human race. This was the new era that humans had created. This continent was dominated by summoners. Summoners. Weren't they just using their spiritual power to wake up the sleeping divine weapons and magical beasts? Little White scoffed at this. This divine beast knew a lot of ancient secret techniques. "Comph, I can scare you guys to death with just one." That's right. Even in this state, Little White still believed that he was superior. He wouldn't bend over just for a few buckets of rice. Little White, time to eat. At this time, Su Pei happened to walk into the courtyard from the kitchen with a box of food. When she saw Xiao Bai walking like a cat at the entrance, she couldn't help but smile and squat down. "Xiao Bai, come here. I've ordered your favorite wild boar leg today. It's very delicious." "Little White, I already said that I wouldn't bend over just for a few buckets of rice. But if there was meat to eat, then I'll consider it." A divine beast must be flexible. Tilda. Why does this sound so familiar? When Su Wan and Su Rui came back, they saw Su Pei eating with Little White in her arms. Su Wan couldn't help but shake her head seeing him wolfing down the food. Sigh. As expected of a divine beast that had been sealed for tens of thousands of years. Look at his posture. You can tell that he hasn't eaten for a long time. Tilda Master, third miss, you're back. As for Su Wan and Su Rui going in and out together, eating and sleeping together, the Su family was already used to it. Plus, Su Ya had spread the news a long time ago, pushing the cancellation of the engagement onto Xiao Yang. Regarding this, the male lead calmly accepted it. It was just that the relationship between the Su family and the Xiao family had recently become like fire and water. Su family's young ladies and men were heartbroken by Su Wan and Su Zhon's strong union. Tilda seeing Su Wan and Su Rui's figures, Little White subconsciously hid behind Su Pei. These two gave him a dangerous feeling. Seeing Xiao Bai's actions, Su Wan's gaze flickered. She turned her body and smiled as she tugged on Su Rui's robe. "Ah Zhon, didn't you say that you're going to teach me the mnemonic chant you just obtained? Hurry up, I can't wait any longer." Millimeter, sure. It was rare for Su Rui to see his wife acting coquettishly. He immediately pulled Su Wan into the house with a smile. Su Liang, who was behind them, had to stop halfway and exchange a knowing look with Su Pei. Damn it, was he going to start torturing the single dogs again? "Can you two please restrain yourselves?" The sky had just darkened. Every night, they took turns doing something that was not suitable for children. Could they really break through just by doing it? Su Liang was ridiculing Su Zhon. An hour later, a large spiritual cloud gathered in the sky above Su Zhon's residence. The surging spiritual influence lit up the night sky and stole the moon's radiance. The entire Su family was in an uproar again. Heavenly, heavenly. Master was going to advance again. Su Liang was speechless. Su Liang wasn't the only one shocked. A certain ancient divine beast was also shocked. Su Zhon advanced again? This didn't make sense. No, the spiritual cloud didn't look like he was advancing from grade 3 to grade 2. It should be Su Wan advancing from grade 6 to grade 5. That's right. Su Wan was at the peak of grade 6. It was natural for her to advance to grade 5 now. Right now, Su Ya brought a group of people to surround Su Zhon's courtyard. They also noticed that Su Wan was the one advancing this time, not Su Zhon. In short, no matter who it was, as long as they were part of the Su family, it was a great thing. The spirit clouds in the sky gathered to a certain extent and were about to disperse. Right at this moment, wind suddenly blew in all directions, and countless spirit chi surged, forming a powerful spirit cloudstorm in the sky above the Su family. This is... Oh my God! The entire Su family was boiling with excitement. Such a powerful spiritual cloud storm almost covered the entire Mate City. This was the sign of a Grade 3 advancing to Grade 2. How long had it been since Su Zhan advanced to Grade 3? 10 days. 8 days. He actually advanced to Grade 2 at such a fast speed. How could people live like this? Not only the Su family, but the entire Mate City couldn't sleep because of this. The future belongs to you youngsters. Long Qianzhan stood in the courtyard in the Castellan's residence and stared at the Su family, sighing slightly. The Su family had Su Zhan. No one could stop them. The number one family position in Mate City was probably going to change hands. Su Zhan, in the Xiao family not far from the Su family, Xiao Yang stood quietly on the rooftop, watching the spiritual clouds gathering endlessly in the night sky. His gaze gradually turned dark and gloomy. Su Zhan, you're an opponent worthy of me going all out. Xiao Yang looked down at the token in his hand. His sister, Xiao Ya, had sent someone from the imperial capital to give him this token. This was the Royal Family Summoners Academy's token. Originally, Xiao Yang didn't plan on using his sister's connection to enter the academy. But it seemed like he had to leave Mate City if he wanted to surpass Su Zhan in the shortest time possible. Su Zhan, you and I will fight one day. Even if it wasn't for themselves, they had to do it for each other's family's honor. Fate was silently being changed, and everyone was no exception. Su family. This time, Su Rui and Su Wan's advancement duet could be considered to have gained face for Su family. But this time, the two of them weren't lucky enough to summon a peerless treasured sword like Purple Ming. Of course, they shouldn't be too greedy. After the advancement ended, the two didn't even show their faces. They continued to roll in the bed in the room. Everyone in the Su family could only go home to wash up and sleep. Therefore, there was a new rumor in Mate City the next day. Do you know about Su Zhan? Do you know that Su Zhan advanced? Do you know why Su Zhan advanced so quickly? According to an insider, he obtained a summoner's inheritance in the Sunset Mountains. This inheritance was good stuff. Apparently, he could level up as long as he had sex with a woman. What? You don't believe me? Let me tell you. My uncle's wife's aunt's son's second aunt's cousin's younger cousin works in the Su family. Apparently, Su Zhan doesn't do anything but have sex with his woman all day. There were all sorts of strange things in this world. Yet, there were still people who believed such a ridiculous rumor. More and more people believed this was the truth. Little White, this is simply insulting this divine beast's intelligence. But there's definitely something fishy going on between the two. I must observe them carefully and find out their secret. As the rumors in Mate City became more and more outrageous, the number of people who came to the Su family to visit Su Rui and learn martial arts from him could practically circle the city 30 times. Seeing the group of hungry men and a large group of women who couldn't satisfy their desires, Su Wan was also speechless. Thankfully, Su Rui always had a cold and aloof demeanor when he was calm. Normal people couldn't resist his cold aura and they all obediently left the Su family. Today, he chased away another group of people who wanted to become his disciple. By the time Su Rui returned to his room, he felt depressed. We can't continue like this. Su Rui sat on the chair, his expression dark. Then what should we do? Su Wan also looked at him anxiously. The inheritance you're cultivating right now is too domineering. Your advancement speed is too fast. Sooner or later, the royal family of Oran and even other countries on the mainland will covet it. By then, it might bring disaster to the Su family. Unfortunately, there are only cultivation methods that can increase people's spiritual power. There are no cultivation methods that can decrease it. Decrease my spiritual power? Su Rui's gaze brightened hearing Su Wan's words. It'd be great if I could contract with an advanced magical beast. I heard that advanced magical beasts can share spiritual power with their masters. That way, I can pass the excess spiritual power in my body to it. Unfortunately, There's no advanced magical beast in the entire Mate City that can bear the burden of my spiritual power. Who said that there are no advanced magical beasts in Mate City? At this time, a leisurely voice suddenly sounded outside the door. Xiao Bai walked in elegantly with his cat-like steps. This demonic beast, no, this divine beast is a level 10 beast. Do you know rank 10? Chapter 247. You're saying you're a rank 10 divine beast? Seeing Xiao Bai arrogantly reveal his identity, Su Wan couldn't help but narrow her eyes. She took a few steps forward and bent down, holding him in her hand with one hand. It's said that mythological beasts can transform into human form from birth. Come, come, come. Change your form for me to see. Little White was speechless. If this divine beast could transform, would you still bully me like this? I'm just sealed, so I can't use my spiritual power for now. Without spiritual power, I naturally can't transform. Little White said this while struggling in Su Wan's hands. So you're a divine beast that's been sealed. Even if what you said is true, what's the use? Su Wan swung her hands and tossed Little White to the ground. Hey, be polite. You guys are the ones asking this divine beast for help. I know all of your secrets. Saying this, Little White shook off the dust on his body and looked at Su Zhan arrogantly. How about we make a deal? I'll make a contract with you. You can transfer your excess spiritual power to me. Give it to you? Su Rui sneered. So what if you're really a divine beast? Once I give my spiritual power to you, what if you turn against me after removing the seal? I've read ancient records that divine beasts can only recognize a master once. Didn't you already recognize Su Wu as your master? You're still trying to trick me? By the end, Su Rui's voice had already become as cold as ice and frost. The entire room even had ice-cold spiritual energy continuously gathering. Hey, calm down. I didn't recognize Su Wu as my master. Seeing that Su Rui might flip out at any time, Little White couldn't help but explain first. Right now, Su Wu was only a rank 8 summoner. There was no way Little White would recognize her as his master. However, because Su Wu had woken Little White up from his 10,000 years of sleep, he instinctively got close to her. According to the original plot, Little White didn't recognize anyone as his master even after removing the first seal. Until Su Wu was framed and chased by someone, Little White took the initiative to recognize her as his master in order to save her. After a divine beast recognized a master, it could share its spiritual power with its master. In the end, Su Wu had to use Little White's spiritual power to escape from the crowd. Achem. Hearing Little White's words, Su Rui's gaze flickered and a secret smile appeared on his lips. Since that's the case, I can consider your suggestion. Little White, just consider. Dear, I'm a divine beast. A divine beast. You won't get another chance like this. What are you hesitating for? Just attack when you need to. Little White was very anxious, but he didn't dare to show it in front of Su Wan and Su Wan. This divine beast's intelligence is really high. The two people in front of me are both geniuses. That Su Zhan is even a genius that only appears once in 1,000 years in Dongchuan, mainland. This divine beast isn't at a disadvantage to recognize him as my master. One day, his name will definitely shake the world. At that time, this divine beast will also become the person that everyone in the world respects and worships. There were many, but Bobo Arenri are. That's right, this divine beast is a bowler with discerning eyes. Young Master Su, hurry and obediently come to this divine beast's bowl. While a certain mythological beast was fantasizing about the beautiful future, Su Wan and Su Rui secretly exchanged glances. Done. I've already said that General Su is the most experienced when it comes to dealing with divine beasts. A certain White Tiger King and Black Dragon King sent a congratulatory message. Silver Moon White Tiger, please accept my condolences. Alright, I'll trust you this once. As if he had finally made up his mind, Su Rui stood up and raised his hand to draw a contract formation in the air. Then he bit his finger and dark red beads of blood rolled on his fingertips. That's right. Forming a master-servant relationship with a mythological beast didn't require an ordinary magical beast contract. Instead, it required the blood essence of the master and the mythological beast. Under the condition that both parties were willing, the blood essence would be dripped into the contract formation and it would take effect immediately. Seeing that Little White had also dripped his blood on the formation, a red light flashed in the room. A silver moon-shaped mark flashed on Su Rui's forehead and then disappeared without a trace. Master recognition successful. Su Wan heaved a sigh of relief on the side. The first step of the plan was finally completed smoothly. It had to be said that this was all thanks to the silver moon white tiger sleeping for 10,000 years. It was an inexperienced and simple-minded mythological beast. Moreover, after being sealed for so long, it must be extremely thirsty for power. When Su Rui displayed his endless potential and extraordinary aptitude in front of it, it was not surprising that it would make this choice. Su Wan and Su Rui's wishes came true, but a certain mythological beast was destined to die tragically. What happened to being the master that was worshipped by everyone on the continent? Although his master did become famous in the end, a certain mythological beast stayed in Mate City with his master for his entire life. Apparently, the sky was blue, the grass was green, the flowers were red, and even the magical beasts were beautiful. Master, I really want to go take a look. Su Rui, don't cook dinner for Little White today. He's full just from his mental food. Little White, Master, I was wrong. The outside world was very exciting, but it was also very helpless. In short, as a mythological beast that was a glutton, his entire life had been bitter. Of course, this was all in the future. Right now, Little White, who had just recognized his master, felt that his entire body was filled with power. It was great to have a master who was a grade 2 summoner. This spiritual power was so abundant. Endless spiritual power surged from Su Rui's body. Little White immediately absorbed the spiritual power with all his might, gathering it somewhere in his body. He planned on breaking the first seal in one go. Once the first layer of the seal was unlocked, it would be able to use and cultivate its own spiritual energy on its own. Moreover, every mythological beast's mind naturally stored the inherited cultivation method of its own clan. Once the first layer of the seal was unlocked, Little White would be able to cultivate the cultivation method of its Silver Moon White Tiger clan. Crack! With a cracking sound, Whitey's body flashed with white light, and its entire body grew bigger. Although it was still in the shape of a small white wolf dog, it seemed to be a little more powerful. The seal was broken. The first seal is broken. The seal is broken. Little White excitedly jumped up and down in Su Rui's room. Su Rui and Su Wan exchanged glances and smiled helplessly. Although a certain mythological beast was over 10,000 years old, he was still a child. Though it wasn't good to lie to a child, Su Wan didn't feel any pressure doing it. Jean, now that Little White recognizes you as his master, how are we going to explain this to Sister Su Wu? Su Wan revealed a worried expression when he mentioned Su Wu. If she finds out that her favorite mythological beast has betrayed her, she'll be really sad. It's fine. Su Rui smiled faintly. Xiao Wu is still a grade 9 summoner right now. She still has a long way to go before becoming a grade 5 summoner. By then, she'll have grown up and will understand. Little White was speechless. Damn. He seemed to have taught Su Wu a really powerful ancient chant. Her cultivation speed wasn't slow right now. Chapter 248. Recently, Su Wu had been really depressed. Really depressed. Originally, she thought that Su Zhan would provide her with some funds so that she could cultivate faster. Who knew that this elder brother would say more haste, less speed? He told people to lock her in the family's cultivation room to meditate in seclusion. Meditate my ass. Although there was a lot of spiritual influence in the cultivation room, Su Wu didn't have a good aptitude. Her cultivation speed was incomparably slow. Right now, she was using the Yuling chant that Little White taught her. She had to nurture all sorts of weapons and mystical beasts, turning these weapons into her own mystical weapons and using this to accumulate her own cultivation. The more mystical weapons she nurtured and the higher the level of the weapons, the more spiritual power she would obtain in the end. But there wasn't even a sword in the cultivation room. How was Su Wu supposed to advance? Su Wu helplessly meditated in the cultivation room. She didn't know that by the time she came out again, the entire Mate City had changed. Because of Su Zhan's successive advancements, Su family was unparalleled in Mate City. Even Xiao family had to avoid them. Xiao Yang and Long Li, who were supposed to be cultivating at home, seemed to have been stimulated by Su Rui. The two left Mate City one after another. Long Li went out alone to train and search for an opportunity to break through. Apparently, Xiao Yang went to the imperial capital. The imperial capital had the biggest royal summoners academy in Arinda country. Xiao Yang's sister, Xiao Ya, had entered that academy a few years ago. Although she wasn't a genius among geniuses, she was considered a figure in the small Mate City. This was also why Xiao family had been the #1 family in Mate City and hadn't declined. Now that Xiao Yang had left Mate City in advance, Xiao family had quietened down. For a time, the entire Mate City was quiet and peaceful. But how long could this peace last? There were many cities and towns around Mate City. News of a genius appearing in Mate City's Su family gradually started to spread. Plus, the rumors became more and more ridiculous. In the end, there were even people who said that Su Zhan found an ancient treasure in the Sunset Mountains Su residence, in a courtyard. These past few days, Su Ya had been pulling a long face. As the saying goes, a tall tree attracts the wind. The Su family hadn't expanded yet, but they had already become a thorn in many people's eyes. Especially since Su Zhan had been in the limelight recently. Long Qianzhan had also vaguely mentioned it to Su Ya. Even the higher-ups were starting to pay attention to him. This definitely wasn't a good thing. He unknowingly walked to his son's courtyard. Before he entered, Su Ya heard a burst of laughter from inside. Su Liang's cooking is getting better and better. This meat is fat but not greasy. It's crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. I give you a 5-star rating. This was Su Wan's voice. At this time, she was sitting in Su Rui's arms, squinting her eyes to enjoy the delicious food that Su Liang had just roasted. On the other hand, Su Pei was carefully taking care of Whitey, who had obviously grown fatter. Eat, eat, eat. All you know is to eat. Seeing the scene in the courtyard, Su Ya's expression darkened and he walked in angrily. Lord Patriarch. Seeing Su Ya's figure, Su Liang and Su Pei immediately stood up and greeted him. Su Wan also blinked and stood up from Su Rui's arms. Lord Patriarch, you haven't eaten yet, right? Do you want to eat some roasted meat? Su Ya was speechless. Can I even eat it? Why do you have such a big heart? Su Zhan, come with me. Su Ya's gaze landed on Su Rui, his tone unusually solemn. Oh. Su Rui slowly stood up and said carelessly, Wife, eat by yourself first. You don't need to leave any for me. Saying this, he quickly followed Su Ya out of the courtyard. Seeing the father and son walk far away, Little White stuck out his round belly and rubbed against Su Wan's feet. Su Wan, do you think that old man Su Ya dislikes you? I think he's planning on finding another wife for master. I heard that Zhao family's girl, Zhao Kuiying, also advanced to grade 5 summoner. She's younger than you by a year. Plus, that Zhao family's young lady, TSK. Do you think master will fall in love with someone else? Fall in love with someone else? Hearing Little White's words, Su Wan curled her lips carelessly. Then her gaze landed on Su Liang and Su Pei. Su Wan had been secretly observing these two while they were by her and Su Rui's side. The two's characters weren't bad and they were loyal to her and Su Rui. They were good seedlings that could be nurtured without worry. Plus, Su Wan thought of her family. The branch she was born in was a village far away from Mate City. It was considered a remote mountain village. In the original plot, the original body, Su Wan, became rivals in love with Su Wu because Xiao Yang fell in love with someone else. Su Wu was a female assassin to begin with. She obviously wouldn't show mercy to her enemies. Therefore, the original body became cannon fodder. After she became cannon fodder, the bestial tide came and many places were destroyed. Her family and clan all died in that bestial tide. Although Su Wan didn't have any feelings towards the original body's family, Since she inherited the original body's identity, she couldn't just watch as her family died. Right now, she and Su Rui needed manpower. They needed a lot of trustworthy people. Su Liang, Su Pei, do you guys want to become summoners? Su Wan suddenly asked a question. The air in the courtyard froze for a moment. Third miss. Su Pei looked up and looked at Su Wan with a complicated gaze. Of course I want to become a summoner, but I'm already 16 years old and I still can't successfully activate my spiritual power. Sigh. So what if you successfully activate your spiritual power? Su Liang couldn't help but put down the knife he used to cut his flesh. I successfully activated my spiritual power when I was 15, but unfortunately, I could only summon these useless magical weapons. I can cut meat, but I can't kill magical beasts. In Dongchuan mainland, being a summoner was the dream and yearning of many people. However, not everyone could become a summoner, and not all summoners could summon powerful profound weapons and profound beasts. Although some people successfully activated their spiritual power when they were young, they couldn't summon powerful magical weapons and beasts. They could only be mediocre summoners for their entire lives. They couldn't be called summoners at all. Su Liang and Su Pei were both born in a branch family. When they were young, they were the family's hope. They were chosen to enter the main family when they were young and wanted to become powerful summoners. But now that a few years had passed, the two only became Su family's servants. The only thing worth being gratifying was that they were lucky enough to meet two masters with high status and good tempers. Seeing their complicated expressions, Su Wan couldn't help but say again, if I can help you guys become powerful summoners but the price is your entire life, are you guys willing to try? As long as you're willing to swear on your souls that you won't betray me and the master, I'll ask the master to teach you the method to become a summoner. Third miss, are you serious? Su Liang and Su Pei's eyes reddened hearing Su Wan's words. We're willing to follow you and the master. We won't betray you guys. The two wanted to swear on the lamp right now. Seeing their reactions, Su Wan felt really satisfied. A wastrel's counterattack. As long as they had a strong enough cheat, any wastrel could counterattack. Anyone could become the main character of their life. As the female lead of this world, Su Wu's greatest advantage was the Yuling chant. What if all the people with poor aptitudes in the Su family learned the Yuling chant? All wastrels could become powerful summoners step by step as long as they worked hard and had resources. Chapter 249. While Su Wan was giving Su Liang and Su Pei an olive branch, Su Rui also casually told Su Yue his plan in the Su residence's master's study. Hearing that Su Rui wanted to gather all the branches and family members who didn't succeed in activating their spiritual powers, Su Yue was shocked by his son's generosity. I don't doubt the Yuling chant you mentioned. But those people who failed in activating their spiritual powers have really poor aptitudes. Their characters aren't good either. If we use all the resources to nurture them, the other people in the family will probably have an opinion. Su Yue was a knowledgeable and ambitious person. He wasn't narrow-minded, but as the patriarch of a large family, he had to consider the entire family's benefits and honor most of the time. Father is right. Hearing Su Zhon's words, Su Rui couldn't help but nod. Father, you just need to summon everyone who failed the spiritual awakening but still desires to become a summoner. Su Wan and I will do the rest. Everyone? No age limit. Su Yue furrowed his brows. In his opinion, the younger the person, the more potential they had. Those who failed in activating their spiritual powers for many years and became ordinary uncles and aunties. What right did they have for the family to waste resources on them? Ambition doesn't depend on age. Su Rui didn't agree with Su Yue's thoughts. In Dongchuan, mainland, summoners had a long lifespan. As their rank increased, their lifespan would get longer and longer. Compared to hundreds and thousands of years of lifespan, 30 or even 50 or 60 years of age were nothing. Even if some people were close to 70 years of age, they still had hope and dreams in their bones. People like this were far better than those young people who had just reached adulthood and had no achievements. Okay. Since it's your decision, then let's do it. In the end, Su Yue compromised with Su Rui. In his opinion, the bigger the commotion, the better. This was beneficial to the Su family. These days, there were always some people and forces that wanted to peek at Su Zhan's secret. Then Su Yue might as well make this big. It'd be best if the entire Arinda country knew about it. A man's wealth was his own ruin. Su Yue knew his own limits. If the Su family really had some heaven-defying treasure or cultivation method, there would be a day when they would be annihilated. This time, he might as well be generous. While increasing the strength of the Su family, he could also sell a favor to the imperial family. Zhan, make a copy of that Yuling cultivation technique using a spirit slip. I'll bring it directly to the imperial capital. Su Yue had heard Su Rui tell him about the effects of this cultivation method. It did sound magical, but it was only suitable for people with poor aptitudes. Plus, if this cultivation method was unique, it could allow people to soar. But now, Su Rui planned on promoting this cultivation method to the entire Arinda country. In the future, it would become a new school of summoners. Countless people would fight for the limited resources. How much could they develop in the end? Of course, even though he said that, this was still a great innovation in Dongchuan's history. From now on, countless new summoners would be born. These summoners would never forget the Su family and Su Zhan. Thinking that his Su family might go down in history because of this, Su Yue's heart surged. Su Rui smiled faintly hearing Su Yue's words. As expected, Su Yue was an understanding person. The best way to keep a secret was to make it not a secret anymore. The father and son's discussion about the Yuling cultivation technique ended with everyone being happy. Before Su Rui left the study, Su Yue seemed to have suddenly thought of something and couldn't help but stop him. Zhan, it's old Master Zhao's birthday in a few days. Father is about to leave Mate City and head to the imperial capital. Go attend their birthday banquet on my behalf and get closer to Miss Zhao while you're at it. Zhao family? Su Rui paused hearing Su Yue's words. I'm not interested in the Zhao family. Cough. Su Yue coughed softly behind him. There's no harm in making friends. Plus, the eldest miss of the Zhao family is famous for her beauty. She has a good impression of you too. It's normal for men to have multiple wives and concubines. Su Yue thought that his son must have endured too much after being a monk for 3 years in the Sunset Mountains. Otherwise, why would he turn into a wolf as soon as he came back? Plus, looking at Su Wan's petite body, she didn't seem like she could handle it. With his son's fighting strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to marry 4 or 5 wives. Then, he could give birth to a few genius grandsons to play with. Ah, that feels great. Tilda hearing Su Yue's words, Su Rui's expression finally darkened. I have my own plans. I don't want anyone to interfere with my life. Lord, even if you're my father, you're not an exception. Saying this, a purple aura spread around Su Rui. That was Purple Ming's cheerful cry. It hadn't killed in a long time and hadn't drunk blood. It was really unhappy. Tilda Su Yue was speechless. Are you threatening me? Nani? Yet, I'm being threatened. My son is so domineering. Tilda Lord, you're being naughty again. Tilda. By the time Su Rui returned to his courtyard, Su Liang had already tidied it up. He and Su Pei had gotten Su Wan's promise, so they went back to rest early. Right now, only Su Wan and Little White were left in the room. Little White was still lying on the table eating supper. His plump tummy was unbearable to look at. Meanwhile, Su Wan was tidying up her clothes. Su Rui saw Su Wan's small bag by the table as soon as he entered. Wife, are we going out? Amen. I want to go home. How's the discussion with the Lord going? Done. It was also a secret technique of the Silver Moon White Tiger clan. This technique was called the Devouring Chant. Once it was used, it could devour all of the spiritual power that the opponent cultivated using the Yuling chant, instantly returning the opponent to their original state. That's right. The golden finger prepared for the female lead was just that amazing, and now, it all belonged to Su Rui and Su Wan. They could create a legend of a city, but they could also turn all legends into ashes and smoke. Chapter 250. Su Ya went to the Castellan's residence on the same day after the Su family sent out an order to gather all of their branches. No one knew what agreement Su Ya and Long Qianzhan reached. However, Long Qianzhan took Su Ya and the other two and left Mate City the next day, heading straight for Arinda country's imperial capital. After Su Ya left Mate City, news spread from the Su family that Su Ya was going to give the secret technique Su Zhan brought back from the Sunset Mountains to the royal family. The entire Mate City was in an uproar. In the Dongchuan mainland, strength was everything. Although the imperial family was nothing in front of those top experts, it was still an unreachable existence for most people. The Arinda Empire's imperial family had been passed down for hundreds of years. The imperial elder group of the imperial family was full of experts, and it was directly in charge of the Imperial Summoner Academy. Basically, more than half of the geniuses in the empire had been recruited by the imperial family. The Su family's move was beyond many people's expectations. Those who had been ready to make trouble all quietened down due to the imperial family's strength. The eldest daughter, Zhao Qiying, had reached the marriageable age. Originally, Zhao family thought highly of Xiao Yang, especially after Xiao family and Su family broke off the marriage. Master Zhao had hinted to Xiao family more than once that he wanted to form a marriage alliance with them. Unfortunately, not long after, Xiao Yang left Mate City and headed to the imperial capital. Right now, Su Zhan was like the sun in the sky. Although the outside world was saying that he was going to marry Su family's third miss, it was normal for a genius summoner to have multiple wives and concubines. The greater a man's ability, the greater his responsibility, and the greater his charm. In this era where the strong preyed on the weak, what women valued the most in a man was not his face or figure, but his strength. As long as you had the strength, with a sword in hand, the world was yours. Seeing that Patriarch Zhao was about to celebrate his 80th birthday and that Su Ya wasn't in Mate City right now, Patriarch Zhao immediately found his daughter and personally wrote an invitation. He wanted her to personally go to Su family and hand it to Su Zhan. Zhao Qiying was 18 years old now. She was the same age as Su Wan and they were both grade 5 intermediate summoners. Although the two women had never officially met before, Zhao Qiying had always treated Su Wan as her competitor in Mate City. She wanted to surpass Su Wan, but that was only in terms of cultivation. As for feelings, Zhao Qiying already had someone in her heart, and that person was the male lead. Xiao Yang had broken off his engagement with the Su family, and Zhao Qiying had even boldly asked him out to confess her love for him. But that day, Xiao Yang had rejected her, saying that he already had someone he liked. Zhao Qiying didn't know who Xiao Yang liked, but she wouldn't give up easily. Now that Xiao Yang was in the imperial capital, he would become more and more powerful. He would definitely surpass Su Zhan. Zhao Qiying had always been confident in the man she liked. Right now, Zhao Qiying felt heavy as she held the invitation in her hands. She didn't like Su Zhan. No matter how good Su Zhan seemed to others, her heart could only contain one person. Sister. At this time, a crisp voice interrupted Zhao Qiying's thoughts. Zhao Qiying raised her head and saw her younger sister standing in the hallway with a smile on her face. Zhao Wenying, who had just turned 16 this year, wore a summoner's robe and walked cheerfully to her sister's side. Is this an invitation for young Master Su? Zhao Wenying looked at the invitation in her sister's hands, excitement flashing through her eyes. Sister, can I give it to him? I really like young Master Su. I haven't seen what he looks like yet. 3 years ago, when Su Zhan left Mate City, the 13-year-old Zhao Wenying was just a beginner summoner who had just successfully awakened her spiritual power. But now, she was a grade 6 summoner. It could be said that Zhao Wenying's aptitude was better than her sister and Su Wan's. She was a genius young lady. What made people even more envious was that she had a good figure that didn't lose to her sister even though she was only 16 years old. She also had an innocent Lolita face. She could be said to be a man's nemesis. Sister. Seeing her sister's interest in Su Zhan, Zhao Qiying furrowed her brows. I heard that young Master Su is going to marry Su family's third miss soon. Sister, are you? I've never seen him before. I'm just curious. Plus, Zhao Wenying snatched the invitation from her sister's hands. Isn't Su Wan your rival in love? If it weren't for her, you and brother Xiao might have gotten married back then. Now, if there's a chance, I'll help you take revenge. Snatching her man, I'll let her experience the feeling of being abandoned. Saying this, Zhao Weining quickly walked past Zhao Kuiying with the invitation, carrying a faint fragrance with her. Watching her sister leave, Zhao Kuiying's gaze was a bit complicated. Ever since they were young, their father had always treated them as a bargaining chip for the family's benefits because of their good looks. After they grew up, they inherited their mother's devilish figure. Their mother had always instilled a thought into them. Men used their strength to conquer the world while women only needed to conquer men in bed. Was this the only reason for women's existence? Zhao Kuiying didn't believe in fate. She also didn't believe that a truly powerful man would be like her father and have multiple wives and concubines just because he was outstanding. There would always be one person in this world who was powerful and devoted. That kind of person was truly worthy of being entrusted. When Zhao Weining arrived at the Su family under the gazes of a large group of men, she was told that their master went out. Went out? Tomorrow was Zhao family's birthday banquet. Su Zhan went out at this time? Zhao Weining looked around and smiled charmingly at the housekeeper at the door. Then can I go in and wait for your master? He has to come back tonight, right? Miss Zhao, you should go back. Our master went back with third miss. He won't be back for at least 3 to 5 days. Although he was bewitched by Zhao Weining's beauty for a moment, the butler still answered seriously. What? This time, Zhao Weining was truly shocked. Then he's not going to attend our Zhao family's birthday banquet. Master has already arranged for the elder and the others to go over. Miss Zhao, don't worry. Su Zhan. What a Su Zhan. Zhao Weining angrily tossed the invitation to the Su family's housekeeper. When she turned around, her beautiful eyes were cold. Su Zhan, I want to see just who you are. Don't tell me I can't charm you with my abilities. Ignorance is bliss. Miss Zhao, you even dared to provoke General Su. You're really a role model who's not afraid of death, a role model of cannon fodder. Su Rui naturally didn't know anything about Zhao Weining right now. He wasn't interested in Zhao family at all. Su Wan's branch was in a small mountain village under the jurisdiction of Mate City. It wasn't easy to get to the village. Thankfully, Su Rui had the wind-chasing eagle that could travel thousands of miles a day. This time, the two didn't bring Little White. Su Liang and Su Pei also stayed at home to cultivate. Before they left, Su Rui made them swear and passed the Yuling chant to the two. As for what they could achieve in the end, it would depend on their own efforts. True geniuses were always rare in this world. As long as you worked hard, you could become a genius. Su family village should be after we fly past this mountain. Su Wan leaned into Su Rui's embrace and softly whispered a sentence according to the original owner's memory. Right now, the scenery on the mountain was great. Looking down from midair, she could see the flowers blooming all over the mountain. It was like spring all year round and the flowers were brilliant. Su Wan recalled the beautiful scenery from the original body's memory and couldn't help but soften her gaze. It's still so beautiful here. She muttered to herself softly. In the next moment, the windchaser eagle suddenly dove into the forest. Su Rui. Su Wan froze. She turned to look at the man behind her, a bit surprised. It's indeed beautiful here. Su Rui moved his lips to Su Wan's ears. Wife, don't you think this place is suitable for doing something? What? Su Wan subconsciously asked a question. Su Rui breathed heavily behind Su Wan's ears. Fighting in the wild. Su Wan was speechless. General Su, you've lost your integrity. Chapter 251. In the dense forest, the mountain flowers were fragrant and the green grass was lustrous. In this beautiful and pure mountain forest, there was also a clear stream flowing through it. So the stream is still here. At this time, Su Wan and Su Rui had safely landed and the place where they landed just happened to be next to the gurgling stream. Do you want to take a shower? Su Rui hugged Su Wan from behind and softly whispered in her ears, his words full of provocation. Don't mess around. The people in the village use this water to drink. Su Wn couldn't help but smile and hit Su Rui's arm. The people in this village don't have an easy life either. They rely on the mountains and water to survive. Over the years, there haven't been many summoners here. Most of the people in Su family village stay in the mountains and hunt for a living. Actually, the original Su Wan was chosen to go to the main family. She had the chance to bring her parents to Mate City, but the people in the mountain village were simple. Her parents were ordinary people without any spiritual power. They were afraid of dragging their daughter down and afraid that they wouldn't be able to adapt to life in the city. Therefore, the two stayed in Su family village. While Su Wan was organizing the original body's memories, Su Rui pressed her under a dense ancient tree. Wife, we agreed to do something meaningful. You're distracted again. You deserve to be punished. Saying this, Su Rui kissed Su Wan's lips harshly as if he was punishing her. His hands undid the cyan robe that represented an intermediate summoner. Su Wan gasped. Because she was nervous, she wrapped her arms around Su Rui's neck. Su Rui, there will be people here. In Su Wan's memories, the people in the village had to go into the mountains to hunt every day. Even if the weather wasn't good, they had to go into the mountains in order to survive. What are you afraid of? Su Rui's hands were already on Su Wan's warm skin. They won't let us off. Wife, be good. Relax. Saying this, Su Rui kissed Su Wan's lips again. Under the luxuriant tree, the sunlight shone down. The two's bodies were entangled. At this moment, a sharp whistle came from not far away. It is the whistle of the hunters of the Su family village. Su Wan's blurred eyes gradually woke up. Su Rui, someone's coming. Although she was used to living shamelessly with General Su these days, that was in her own home. She could do whatever she wanted after closing the door and rolling onto the bed. But now, they were in the wilderness. Not only were there countless wild beasts, but hunters could also pass by at any time. This was too exciting. Su Wan felt a bit scared. Su Rui naturally heard the whistle too. But General Su was already halfway through attacking the city. How could he abandon the city? As a person, he had to finish what he started. Wife, hold me tight. While Su Rui was speaking, the spiritual chi in his body moved and the two of them immediately jumped up. Right now, Su Wan was hanging on Su Rui's body and the two of them stood on the branches of the big tree. Fortunately, this tree was old and the branches were very thick and strong, able to withstand the weight of the two people. The leaves are dense here. They won't be able to see us. Although he heard the approaching footsteps, General Su still covered Su Wan's lips again without hesitation. He gazed at her and gently and passionately rubbed against her lips. Needless to say, General Su's kissing skills had been practiced to the point of maturity. His skills were extraordinary. Su Wan's mind went blank from Su Rui's kiss. Right now, she was powerless and could only subconsciously cooperate with his kiss. At this time, two people's voices came from not far away from the tree. Uncle Da, where did that wild boar go? It ran in this direction just now. The one who spoke was a dark-skinned and well-built youth. Hearing the youth's words, the person who was addressed as Uncle Da frowned. Then, he squatted down and looked at the grass on the ground. He raised it to his nose and sniffed it. Uncle Da's expression suddenly changed. Uncle Da, what's wrong? Urchwan, where's the wild boar you were talking about? At this time, a few people carrying bows and arrows rushed over. They clearly rushed over after hearing the whistle. Don't make a sound. Uncle Da suddenly shouted coldly. Then he walked around and looked left and right. Just now, I smelled the scent of a high-level magical beast on the grass. What? Hearing Uncle Da's words, the group of people panicked. They couldn't even deal with a low-level magical beast, let alone a high-level magical beast. Uncle Da, did you smell it wrong? Someone couldn't help but question him. The young man named Urchwan furrowed his brows. When did Uncle Da make a mistake? The moment he said this, the people around him also shut up. Everyone, don't be so nervous. Seeing the gloomy expressions on the faces of the people behind him, Uncle Da smiled. This is the scent of a high-level magical beast, the Windchaser Eagle. This type of magical beast is usually the mount of a high-level summoner. That wild boar must have sensed the scent of the Windchaser Eagle and hid. According to my speculations, there should be a summoner following the magical beast. They might have just passed by. Maybe they've already left. What? Hearing Uncle D's explanation, another round of discussion broke out in the crowd. Windchaser Eagle. An advanced summoner. That was something that only existed in legend. Hearing the envious sighs of admiration from the crowd, Chuan curled his lips. What's there to be envious about? Uncle D's sister Xiao Wn is also a summoner. She's the strongest in our Su family village. When she comes back during Chinese New Year, she'll definitely be riding a Windchaser Eagle. Whoosh. Before Chuan could finish his sentence, a slight sound came from the old tree nearby. General Su suddenly realized that it was his father-in-law under the tree. He didn't control himself well and broke a branch. Seeing a broken branch fall from the tree, the group of people next to the tree did not dare to move. Who? It was said that a newborn calf was not afraid of a tiger. Chuan took a big stride and arrived under the old tree. However, the old tree was too dense. Looking up from below, it was full of branches and leaves. He couldn't see anything. Don't be nervous. It's probably the wind. An old hunter could not help but walk to the tree and pick up the broken branch to take a look. Howl. At this time, a wild boar's howl rang. Everyone glanced at each other and immediately grabbed their bows and arrows, rushing over. Until the group disappeared and the branches swayed, Su Rui grabbed Su Wn and jumped down from the tree. Right now, Su Wan's face was still red. She had heard Su De's voice earlier but she didn't dare to move at all, afraid that they would find out. Although Su Wan didn't mind having a new and exciting experience with her man, this time, she was representing the original body's return to her hometown. If she was caught red-handed by everyone here, then she really wouldn't have the face to face her elders. Phew. At this moment, the satisfied General Su couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Wife, it seems like your father isn't a simple person. Su Wan's expression turned serious. If Su was a normal villager, how could he tell what kind of magical beast it was just by smelling it? This method of identifying magical beasts was a special skill that could only be used by mercenary summoners who had been through life and death in the Sunset Mountains all year round. Did Su have a hidden identity? This time, Su Wan was at a loss. Because in the original plot, Su family village was annihilated in the beast tide not long after. The original body, Su Wan, was also used as cannon fodder by Su Wu. Their family's secret was also buried in time. Chapter 252. The sun set in the west and the afterglow of the sky illuminated the entire Su family village in a brilliant red. Everyone in the village was busy. The hunters had a good harvest today. They actually hunted 2 especially large wild boars. 2 adult wild boars were enough for every family in the village to get a lot of meat. The remaining fur and bones could be taken to the nearby town to be exchanged for some money. While the adults were busy chatting and laughing, the children in the village gathered at the entrance of the village in 2s and 3s to be trained by the village's instructor. These 8 and 9-year-old children were the hope of Su family village. Su Wan was born in the village and received a large reward from the Su family. The money and cultivation resources were basically used on these children. The Su family village's instructor was surnamed Zhong. He was the only one with a different surname and was also one of the few people in the village who succeeded in spiritual awakening. Although he had been the lowest grade 9 summoner for most of his life, this didn't stop him from wanting to become stronger. Right now, he was seriously teaching the children how to meditate and guide spiritual power into their bodies. This was a very crucial step. Talented and intelligent people could basically enter a meditative state very quickly. Then, the success rate of guiding spiritual power into their bodies was very high. Once they could guide spiritual power into their bodies for the first time, then they would definitely succeed in spiritual awakening and become a summoner. When Su Rui and Su Wn slowly walked to the entrance of Su family village, they saw this lively and peaceful scene. "Hey, who are you guys?" While the group of children were meditating, a mischievous boy secretly opened his eyes. As a result, he saw a man and a woman leisurely walking over under the afterglow of the setting sun. Su Che was only 7 years old this year, so he naturally didn't have any impression of Su Wan. He just thought that the two elder brothers and sister in front of him were really good looking. Plus, the robes they wore were really familiar, just like the robes of the powerful summoners in the album that Instructor Zhong took. At this moment, following Su Che's clear and loud shout, the surrounding children immediately opened their eyes in curiosity. Instructor Zhong also woke up from his meditative state. He turned around and saw Su Wan and Su Rui. The cyan robe with silver patterns on the edges was the signature robe of an intermediate summoner. This was the goal that Coach Zhong had been working hard for. The silver-white robe embroidered with golden patterns represented the advanced summoner. It was Coach Zhong's first time seeing an advanced summoner at such a close distance. Furthermore, the other party was so young and handsome. Which great family's descendant is he? Or, a genius from the Royal Family Summoners Academy? Coach Zhong froze on the spot, not knowing what to do. Among the group of children, there was a little girl who also blinked her big eyes. She first looked at Su Rui and then she looked at Su Wan. At this time, her gaze suddenly brightened. "Sister Xiao Wan. Sister Xiao Wan, are you back?" "Yes." Su Wan smiled at the little girl. "Su Mai, I haven't seen you for 2 years. You've grown quite a bit." Su Mai was Chuan's younger sister, and Chuan's real name was naturally Su Chuan. He was the second oldest in the family, so everyone was used to calling him Chuan. The 3 siblings had depended on each other since they were young. They lived next door to Su Wan, so they were very familiar with her. "Third Miss Su?" Coach Zhong snapped out of his trance and stared dazedly at Su Wan. They hadn't seen each other for 2 years and Su Wan had changed a lot. It was said that a girl changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood. "Coach Zhong, long time no see." Su Wan smiled at Coach Zhong and then her gaze landed on the village. "It seems really lively today. Sister Xiao Wan, my second brother and the others caught 2 huge wild boars today. Can I let my brother stew some meat for you to eat tonight? Don't you like his stew the most?" "Ah." Su Wan froze and suddenly recalled that Su Mai and Su Chuan's brother was called Su Qing. This Su Qing was the original body's first love? Of course, strictly speaking, they were just childhood sweethearts. Su De's family had 3 daughters, while Su Qing's family consisted of 3 siblings. Because Su Qing's parents died early, he had been taking care of his siblings since he was very young. Su De and his wife were kind-hearted, and the 2 families were neighbors, so they often ate together. They would even spend Chinese New Year's together, so the children's relationship was naturally very good. Su Wan's elder sister and second sister were a few years older than her. They had gotten married early. Su Wan often played with Su Qing when she was young. At that time, the 2 were the little geniuses in the village. Everyone thought that they would definitely become summoners and leave the village to go to Mate City together. Unfortunately, Su Wan succeeded but Su Qing failed. Afterwards, he joined the hunter team in the village and became the youngest and most powerful hunter in the Su family village. Ever since Su Wan summoned the spiritual sword, their lives took 2 completely different paths. Even if the 2 of them had an ignorant favorable impression of each other when they were young, they never talked about it. Since then, the 2 of them were busy with their own things and never crossed paths again. The original body, Su Wan, was a really arrogant girl. When she left the Su family village to go to the Su family, she was full of ambition. She never thought that she would return to this secluded mountain village. Chapter 253. Su Wan and Su Rui's arrival caused the originally peaceful village to become really lively. Coach Zhong might not know who Su Zhon was, but how could the Su family village's people not know that the main family's young master was called Su Zhon? Hearing that Su Wan actually kidnapped Su Zhon brought him back, The Su family village's old village chief immediately came out trembling with his walking stick and his grandson's support to welcome them. Su Rui also restrained his arrogance towards the Su family village. He treated everyone very gently and politely. This made the villagers feel flattered. Speaking of which, the main family would go to each branch to pick out young people with potential every 3 years. Every time they came, which one of them wasn't arrogant and arrogant? In the eyes of the villagers, the main family's young masters and young mistresses were even more unreachable. However, the impression Su Rui gave them was the complete opposite. He was elegant and noble but also very approachable. Plus, Su Rui was handsome to begin with. It was hard for people not to have a good impression of him when he smiled. Today was supposed to be a bumper harvest day. Plus, with Su Wan and Su Rui's arrival, the old village chief decided to hold a bonfire banquet in the village. The wild boar they caught today became the main dish. Su Qing was in charge of breaking down the wild boar and roasting it. After 2 years, the current Su Qing hadn't changed much compared to the young man in the original body's memory. Although he was often exposed to the sun and rain outside, Su Qing's skin was much fairer than his younger brother Su Chuan's. When he wore hunter's attire, he looked really thin and weak, more like a scholar. But when he picked up his bow and rolled up his sleeves, you'd see that his gaze was sharp and his arms were really strong too. There were many young men in the Su family village, but Su Qing was considered one of the best. He had many pursuers in the village, but for the past 2 years, Su Qing had been immersed in practicing his archery skills. He refused everyone's confessions. As time passed, there were fewer and fewer women who came to look for him. Actually, only Su Chuan knew his brother's feelings. Brother couldn't let go of sister Xiao Wan. Brother, let me help you. Su Chuan appeared behind Su Qing out of nowhere. As he said this, he pulled out the fine iron dagger he always carried with him. There was still some time before the banquet started. Most people surrounded Su Wan and Su Rui, asking them about Mate City and Su family. Regarding everyone's curiosity, Su Rui didn't find it troublesome and always answered every question. Compared to the bustling scene in front, the back kitchen seemed especially deserted. Why don't you go to the front to watch the show? Su Qing lifted his head and glanced at his brother. He knew that his brother actually yearned to be a summoner in Mate City. Actually, who wasn't? A complicated look flashed through Su Qing's eyes, but he soon regained his composure. There's nothing to see. Isn't he just the eldest young master of the main family? He just has a better background than us. Su Chuan thought for a long time before replying clumsily to his big brother. You. Hearing his brother's words, Su Qing shook his head slightly. Don't talk nonsense. That person, he is very strong. When Su Rui and Su Wan entered, the first person Su Qing saw wasn't Su Wan but Su Rui. The hunter's instinct told him that the man was extremely dangerous. Even if he wasn't a summoner, he was still a very strong martial artist. Su Qing could feel the heavy murderous aura on him. Maybe only a man like this would make the proud Su Wan willingly lower her head. Su Qing felt a bit bitter. He had been working hard all these years. Even though he was determined to never become a summoner in this lifetime, he had been secretly working hard. He just wanted to be closer to her. Just a bit closer would be good. Unfortunately, seeing her again this time, Su Qing suddenly realized that the distance between them was too far. So far that he couldn't catch up to her figure even if he worked his entire life. Was this fate? The irreversible fate between a genius and a wastrel? Brother? Su Chuan couldn't help but call out to Su Qing, seeing that he hadn't moved the dagger for a while. Sister Xiao Wan said that she's going to invite everyone to Mate City for her wedding. Brother, are you going? Why not? Hearing his brother's words, Su Qing snapped out of his trance and smiled faintly. I haven't been to Mate City yet. This might be my only chance in this lifetime. The night in the mountain village was peaceful and beautiful. The entire village sang and danced around the bonfire, eating and drinking. This was the busiest night in Su family village this year. Does it taste good? Su Rui held Su Wan's waist with one hand, his gaze landing on the wild boar meat on her plate. Even though Su Qing didn't say anything to Su Wan, this plate of meat was clearly different from other people's. General Su was unhappy. You want to eat? Su Wan turned her head and used the fork in her hand to pick up a piece of meat and place it by Su Rui's lips. Here, be good. Open your mouth. Su Rui took a bite. As expected, it didn't taste that great. If you like it, I'll make something better for you when we get back. Su Rui finished the meat in his mouth and couldn't help but whisper intimately in Su Wan's ears. Okay, I know that you're good at cooking. Chef Su, why are you being jealous today? He's remembering his childhood sweetheart. Seeing her man's jealous gaze, Su Wan couldn't help but smile and say softly. The person in Su Qing's heart was Su Wan, but it wasn't the current Su Wan. Even if it's the original one in his heart, the one he's looking at right now is you. Su Rui tightened his grip, his tone a bit gloomy. He didn't like Su Qing's gaze when he looked at Su Wan. It was clearly so indifferent without a trace of anything special, but he could still read the deep longing in his eyes that he was pretending to be calm. How much a man loved a woman could be seen from the way he looked at her. Su Qing really loved Su Wan. Su Rui was sure of this. Plus, this Su Qing, in short, the feeling he gave Su Rui was completely different from the feelings his love rivals gave him in the past. There was a type of love rival in this world. They were always indifferent like water, but they were always everywhere. These types of people were hard to deal with. Su Rui didn't eat much for the entire night. He only cared about declaring his ownership in front of everyone. One moment, he hugged Su Wan's waist, and the next moment, he hugged her shoulders, afraid that others couldn't tell that they were a couple. Although Su Wan's expression was helpless against General Su's childish and insecure behavior, she still felt that her man was cute no matter what. Fine. No wonder you guys are husband and wife. After the bonfire banquet ended, everyone naturally went their own ways. Because Su Qing's family and Su Wan's family were neighbors, they naturally went the same way. Before the banquet started, Su Rui told the old village chief about the family gathering order. Su Ya had naturally given them the order too, but Su Rui had intercepted the token. He wanted to tell the news to the people in the village together with Su Wan. Plus, he used the excuse that he was going to marry Su Wan to have everyone in the village go to Mate City to watch the ceremony. The bestial tide was coming. Su family village was located in the mountains and naturally couldn't be spared. Right now, Mate City's Su family was in need of manpower. Although they had only interacted for a few hours, Su Rui could feel the simplicity and steadiness of the entire village. People of this quality were exactly what the Su family needed. Su Wan's home was on the east side of the village. It was a very old but large stone house. Because there were a lot of people in the past, the stone house was divided into several independent bedrooms. Although his daughters weren't at home now, Su De and his wife still cleaned the house well. Master, the environment here is simple and crude. We didn't prepare anything either. Please don't mind. Su De's wife, Dong Yu, immediately brewed a pot of tea for Su Rui after returning home. She wore a sincere smile on her aged face. We're family. You don't have to be so polite. You're the elder. Just call me Su Zhan. Su Rui was naturally very polite to his in-laws. Speaking of which, he and Su Wan have been together for so long, and he has also seen several in-laws. Other than Su Jianjun and Li Maihuan, the best pair, Su Rui was quite satisfied with his in-laws. Su Rui smiled really sincerely right now. Dong Yu's expression became even more benevolent seeing Su Rui's smile. Then I'll call you Su Zhan. You and Xiao Wan must be tired. I'll help you tidy up a room. You should rest early too. No need to go through so much trouble. Su Wan grabbed her mother's hand. He's sleeping with me. You guys don't have to tidy up a room for him. Dong Yu was speechless. Ahem. Su De saw his wife standing there in a daze. He couldn't help but cough and pull her to his side. We're old and we can't stay up late. Xiao Wan, since that's the case, take care of Su Zhan. Your mother and I will go back to the room first. Got it. Su Wan nodded and watched Su De and his wife leave. After the two returned to their room, Su Wn couldn't help but look at Su Rui sitting by the stone table. How is it? The soundproofing of the stone house is pretty good. Wife, tonight we, MN? Su Wn narrowed her eyes and looked at Su Rui dangerously. I'm talking to you about something serious. Oh. Su Rui smiled craftily at his wife. I can tell that your mother has no spiritual power at all. Although your father is an ordinary person, he should have cultivated before. In other words, my father might have been a summoner back then. But I don't know what happened that caused his cultivation to be crippled. Su Wan couldn't help but guess hearing Su Rui's words. Su Wan had always been confident in Su Rui's perception. As long as Su Rui glanced over, he would never make a mistake. That's right. My wife eats the food I personally made in the morning. Right, wife. Last night, Suda family also received some wild boar meat, and at this moment, General Su decided to personally cook. Yes. Su Wan leaned in Su Rui's arms and smiled happily. Then she looked at Su Qing apologetically. Thank you for your kindness. I'll try your cooking when I have the chance. All right. Su Qing nodded and then went to the other side of the courtyard to continue training. Where's the kitchen? At this time, Su Rui had already rolled up his sleeves, planning to display his skills. You're really coming? Su Wan smiled strangely at him. You're a young master right now. You don't have to do any chores. Let me do it. Saying this, Su Wan had already turned to enter the house and went to the kitchen. Su Wan's culinary skills were top-notch. General Su was naturally happy to be able to eat his wife's breakfast made with love. Wife, be careful. The water is cold. I'll help you wash it. When Dong Yu walked into the kitchen in a daze early in the morning, she saw Su Wan and Su Rui busy in the kitchen. Su Wan was cooking porridge and Su Rui was enthusiastically helping her at the side. The two people were talking and laughing. That scene looked especially warm. Dong Yu stood outside the kitchen for a while. In her memory, her youngest daughter was really arrogant. She had never entered the kitchen since she was young. She really changed a lot in these 2 years. Was it because of the young master? Su Zhon's name was well known in the Su family village. Who in the Su family didn't know that he was the genius of the Su family and also the candidate for the next head of the family? Dong Yu's gaze landed on Su Rui. She could tell that he truly loved her daughter. Dong Yu smiled. Then she thought of something and her expression turned a bit complicated. Unfortunately, Su Qing was a good child too. He just wasn't fated to be with Xiao Wan. Stop looking. Go clean the table. It's time to eat. Suda was standing behind Dong Yu. When she heard her husband's words, Dong Yu immediately nodded and quickly turned around to return to the house. Suda glanced at the kitchen and silently turned around to leave. They had a sumptuous breakfast. After the meal, General Su rushed to clean the table. In short, this prospective son-in-law made Suda and his wife smile from ear to ear. Dong Yu's eyes turned red. Back then, when she gave birth to Su Wan, the husband and wife were being chased. It could be said that their daughter was born on the line between life and death. Therefore, Dong Yu doted on her daughter since she was young. Now that her daughter finally grew up and became sensible, she even found such a good husband. Dong Yu felt like she finally had no regrets in her life. In the morning, after breakfast, it was time for the hunters in the village to gather. Because Su Wan had returned, Suda didn't go up the mountain today. On the other hand, Su Chuan sang a folk song early in the morning and pulled his elder brother into the mountain excitedly. This was their last day in the Su family village. Thinking that they could enter Mate City in the future and might even become summoners, the youngsters in the village were all excited. Actually, they weren't the only ones who were excited. Some thoughts had been dormant in their hearts for too long. Once there was a glimmer of hope, they would immediately resurface. Coach Zhong arrived outside Suda's house early in the morning. He hesitated, not knowing if he should enter or not. Zhongji, why aren't you coming in? Suda saw Coach Zhong, who was pacing back and forth in front of his courtyard, and immediately called him into the courtyard. "Brother Da." Zhongji nodded at Su Da. "Third Miss and Master, are you up yet?" "Why are you calling me Third Miss?" "Our Xiao Wan and Su Zhon woke up early in the morning. They're talking to her mother in the room." "Zhongji, are you here to look for Su Zhon?" Su Da could tell what Zhongji was thinking. They were old acquaintances, so he might as well get straight to the point. "Yes." Zhongji showed a rare nervous expression. "Brother Da, I'm not a member of the Su family, but I really want to become a real summoner. I don't know if young master will give me this opportunity. You have to fight for the opportunity yourself. As long as you have the heart and fight for it, you'll get a good result." Su Da smiled and patted Zhongji's shoulder. "Su Zhon is a good kid. Talk to him. I think he'll agree." "Okay." Su Rui appeared in front of the door with a smile. "Uncle Da, Coach Zhong, I heard what you guys said. Coach Zhong, you've been in our Su family village for a few years. If Uncle Da trusts you, then I, Su Zhon, naturally trust you too. However, once you enter our Su family, you'll have to change your surname to Su and swear to be loyal to the Su family for the rest of your life. Can you do this?" Su Zhon smiled and said, "Uncle Da, Coach Zhong, I heard what you guys said. Coach Zhong, you've been in our Su family village for a few years." "Yes, I can." Zhongji immediately nodded. He hadn't gotten married in order to cultivate. Plus, his family had either died or dispersed. Right now, Zhongji was all alone. He really didn't mind changing his surname to Su. "Okay." Su Rui nodded, seeing that he agreed readily. "Then go back and prepare. Come into the city with us tomorrow." "Yes, yes. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Brother Da." Zhongji left in satisfaction, but Su Rui was still standing at the door. His gaze landed on Su Da. "Uncle Da, do you want to become a summoner?" "Summoner?" Su Da froze for a moment before shaking his head with a smile. "I'm old. I don't have that many expectations or ambitions. It's pretty good to be an ordinary person. No fighting, no killing, no betrayal, and no schemes." He just wanted to be an ordinary person with daily necessities, grow old, get sick, and die. This was the life he was pursuing right now. It's good to be an ordinary person. Su Rui smiled at Su Da and then turned to enter the house. Chapter 255. There weren't a lot of people in Su family village. There were around 30 families and over 100 people in total. When Su Rui and Su Wan left with everyone, it was still morning. A large group of people left the village they'd lived in for many years in the morning dew. The elderly were a bit reluctant, but the children and youngsters all wore excited smiles. What was the outside world like? How many unknown sceneries were there outside the mountain? They had been looking forward to walking out of this mountain. Now, everything had become a reality. It was noon by the time the 100 people arrived at the nearest town. Su Rui booked a tavern and everyone ate lunch. They rented some cars in town before slowly walking towards the county town. They had been rushing all the way here. When they arrived at the county town, they could finally change to low-level magic beasts that pulled the carriages. The group of children were extremely excited as they sat on the magic beasts. At this time, Su Rui summoned an antler beast. This was a rank 4 magic beast. It had a gentle temperament and was a great mount. Plus, it wasn't too fast nor too slow. It was just enough for the low-level magic beasts to keep up with it. When they came, the two rode the Windchaser Eagle and didn't have time to enjoy the scenery along the way. This time, the journey back was leisurely. Su Wan leaned against Su Rui's chest and quietly enjoyed the strange and beautiful scenery on both sides of the road. The scenery of the other world was even more mysterious and beautiful than the scenery they had seen in the past. It would take 3 days and 3 nights to get from Su family village to Mate City at a normal speed. Su Rui and Su Wan brought the group of people along and finally entered Mate City's city gates on the evening of the 5th day. As the second largest family in Mate City, Su family owned many properties inside and outside of Mate City. It wasn't a problem for them to settle down 100 people. At this time, There were already many people from the branches who came to report to Su family one after another. Of course, they were all arranged to stay in Su family's courtyard outside the city. Only Su Wan's branch had the qualifications to stay in the main family's outer residence. Mate City's grandeur, Su family's luxury, and the summoners that came and went in the city broadened the horizons of the young people in Su family village for the first time. This was Mate City. It was just one of the less famous cities in Arinda country. How big was Arinda country? How big was Dongchuan mainland? The mysterious and dangerous Sunset Mountains. The legendary elves and dwarfs that lived in the forest. Su Qing stood in front of Su family's tall courtyard, stepping on this unfamiliar land. This was the first time he felt as insignificant as a speck of dust. Her talent was above Zhao Kuiying and the original body, Su Wan. Plus, with her devilish figure, she was good at using her appearance to make friends. In the original plot, Zhao Wenying entered the Summoners Academy a year later than the female lead Su Wu. As soon as she entered, she was treated as a goddess. At that time, Su Wu had already established herself in the academy. Plus, she was favored by the fifth prince of the Olin royal family, Jin Yang. Of course, the fifth prince was one of the many passionate male supporting characters in this world. He liked Su Wu, but she didn't have any special feelings for him. After Zhao Wenying entered the school, this second young mistress of Zhao family was bent on seducing the fifth prince. Unfortunately, she failed every time. In the end, she even overreached herself and was almost killed by the summoner beside Jin Yang. At the last moment of life and death, Xiao Yang happened to pass by and saved her. From then on, Zhao Wenying was infatuated with Xiao Yang. She wanted to be with Xiao Yang. Because of her disruptions time and time again, the male lead's long road of chasing after his wife became more bumpy. Su Wan was originally willing to give a 5-star review to a vicious female supporting character like her. But now, she dared to pester her man. Bad review. Must give a bad review. Seeing that Su Wan's smile was gone, Su Rui immediately hugged his wife's shoulders. Wife, you've been tired all day. Let's go to sleep. I'll deal with insignificant people like her tomorrow. I won't let her be an eyesore to you. Who said she's an eyesore to me? Su Wan lifted her brows and said proudly, Miss Zhao is looking for you, not me. Su Rui was speechless. Chapter 256. The news of Su Zhon coming back had spread throughout Mate City early in the morning. Zhao Wenying dressed herself up gorgeously and arrived outside Su family's door with a fragrant breeze. In the past few days, the guards and stewards of the Su family had already become accustomed to her behavior. Didn't you take a fancy to our master? We're not blind. We know what you're trying to do. Where's brother Su Zhon? Zhao Wenying put on a familiar tone as soon as she entered. The housekeeper's eyes twitched. Miss Zhao, our master and third miss haven't gotten up yet. Ah. Zhao Wenying's expression darkened immediately. Who was Su Wan? How could a wild girl from the mountains compare to her? Then I'll go wait for him in his courtyard. Saying this, Zhao Wenying didn't wait for the housekeeper to stop her. She walked towards Su Zhon's courtyard with her head held high and chest puffed out. Before she entered the courtyard, Xiao Bai, who was in the courtyard, smelled a pungent fragrance. Nani. There was definitely something wrong with humans' sense of beauty. Their noses were even worse. How could she be so proud of herself despite the pungent smell and think that she smelled good? Had she ever considered other people's noses? As expected, the first thing Zhao Wenying saw was Little White squatting by the courtyard doing nothing. Oh, Little White, you're up so early to guard the door? Zhao Wenying had come here many times. Naturally, she heard from the housekeepers that this useless wolf dog was Su Zhon's pet. Therefore, when she saw Little White, Zhao Wenying revealed a smile that she thought could charm everyone. Little White was speechless. This divine beast is cultivating right now. Do you know how to cultivate? Ignorant human tilde Little White walked the furthest away from Zhao Wenying. Wait until my master wakes up. Let's see how he'll take care of you. Chemph. I'll stay away in case your blood splashes on me. Zhao Weining was already used to Little White's behavior. She stood in the courtyard and heard movement in the room. She immediately tidied up her clothes and hair and walked to the door with light steps. Before she could knock, the door was opened from the inside. Zhao Weining immediately revealed her most charming smile. Su ah. A basin of hot water suddenly poured down, catching Zhao Weining off guard. Hearing Zhao Weining's scream, Su Wn stood at the door and rubbed her eyes in a daze. Sorry, my hand slipped. It's early in the morning and I thought there was a female ghost standing at the door. Su Wan. Right now, Zhao Weining was completely drenched. Her meticulously tied hair was also wet. She knew that Su Wan did this on purpose to embarrass her in front of Su Zhan. As she spoke, the spiritual energy in Zhao Weining's body surged. She had already summoned her proudest profound weapon, the Nine-Serpent Bow. This was also a divine weapon. Seeing that Zhao Weining wanted to use force without saying anything further, Su Wn sneered. She activated her spiritual power and immediately summoned her profound sword. Love rivals. Su Wan thought that if one came, she'd beat one. If two came, she'd beat a pair. There was no pressure at all. If she killed one, there would be one less. The two's profound weapons were equally powerful, but Su Wn suppressed Zhao Weining by an entire realm. Plus, Su Wan's spiritual power was several times stronger than Zhao Weining's. Therefore, Su Wan had been suppressing Zhao Weining since the start of the fight. Plus, Su Wan didn't really want to kill her. Her sharp profound sword would cut Zhao Weining's body from time to time, cutting her wet clothes beyond recognition. Right now, the two women's spiritual power fluctuations had attracted many Su family's disciples. Even Su Qing and his brother who had just arrived last night were attracted here by the noise. Seeing that Su Wan was fighting someone, Su Qing's gaze turned nervous. Brother, look at that woman. Su Chuan tugged on his brother's sleeves a bit excitedly. Hearing his brother's words, Su Qing nodded with a complicated gaze. I see her. She's using a bow and arrow. Although Su Qing wasn't a summoner, he was an outstanding hunter. He knew archery very well. Ah. Su Chuan immediately revealed a disdainful expression hearing his brother's words. Why are you looking at the bow and arrow? I want you to look at her breast. Her breasts are surging. Can't you see that everyone is drooling? You're so unromantic. No one wants you. Third miss, go for it. Oh. Wow. Third miss, you're amazing. The Su family's disciples naturally knew what second Miss Zhao was thinking. Therefore, seeing Su Wan pressing down on her, the group of men immediately cheered enthusiastically. That's it. Third miss is mighty. Hurry up and stab her in the chest. Let the brothers have a feast for their eyes. Right now, Zhao Weining's expression turned ugly. Naturally, she knew that she wasn't Su Wan's opponent. The reason why she attacked was because she wanted to find a chance. If Su Wan really injured her, then she would have an excuse to get close to Su Zhan. But now, Su Wan kept pressing down on her, but she didn't really want to kill her. Instead, she kept slashing her clothes. She was clearly humiliating her. Zhao Weining's expression was ashamed and resentful. She secretly gathered her strength and suddenly summoned a profound weapon while Su Wan was absent-minded. Netherworld Stab, a hidden weapon to injure people. A ray of green light suddenly shot towards Su Wan's chest. Before the onlookers could react, Su Qing had already dashed over. Xiao Wan, be careful. In the nick of time, a silver shield suddenly appeared in front of Su Wan, blocking the Netherworld Stab's sudden attack. Shield of Earth. Hiss. Everyone finally reacted. They couldn't help but suck in a cold breath because of the close call just now. This Miss Zhao was truly vicious. And this shield was, a silvery white figure appeared beside Su Wan. He gently waved his hand and the shield disappeared in the air. Master! Master! Su family's disciples were all excited. Su Rui just stood there quietly, not even looking at Zhao Weining. His gaze landed on Su Qing first. Su Qing's expression was a bit awkward. He felt that Su Wan was in danger, so he couldn't help but rush out. But halfway through, Su Zhan's shield fell from the sky. This made Su Qing stop his footsteps. He stood by the side, feeling conflicted. This was the difference between a summoner and a normal person. When you wanted to protect someone or something, if you didn't have the corresponding strength, then everything would be futile. Even if you sacrificed your life, it might be useless. Seeing Su Qing silently turning to leave, Su Rui lazily looked up and glanced at Zhao Weining. Su Rui didn't plan on doing anything today. It was best to leave this woman to his wife to pass the time. Plus, Su Rui believed that even if Zhao Weining played dirty, she couldn't beat Su Wan. It was just that Su Qing suddenly rushed out, so Su Rui had no choice but to make a move. He couldn't give his love rival any chance to save the beauty. This was General Su's bottom line. Brother Su Zhan. Seeing Su Rui's figure, Zhao Weining's eyes immediately became watery. Master Su was just like the rumors. He was incomparably handsome and had an awe-inspiring noble aura. Ah Zhan, when did you get another sister? How come I didn't know? Hearing Zhao Weining's weak and delicate voice, Su Wan put away her weapon and narrowed her eyes at Su Rui. Actually, she had been prepared for Zhao Weining's sneak attack. But Su Qing's sudden appearance really surprised Su Wan. Okay, now that Su Rui had come out and the big boss had appeared, it seemed like there was nothing else to play with. Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rui smiled warmly. Then he turned around and caressed her hair dotingly. Then he gently adjusted her robe. Wife, don't talk nonsense. There are a lot of lunatics in Mate City who want to randomly recognize relatives. You're just that naive. You believe everything other people say? Saying this, Su Rui coldly glanced at Zhao Weining. I remember that this lady's surname is Zhao. You don't have anything to do with our Su family, right? Don't say that you're your mother and Su Ya's illegitimate daughter. Even if my father is a womanizer, he would choose a better one. Not everyone can enter his eyes. Far away in the imperial capital, Su Ya, a Chu. Who's thinking about me? Aya, there's no other way, this Lord Patriarch is just so well liked. Chapter 257. Su Zhan, Master Su. Hearing Su Rui's harsh sarcasm, Zhao Weining suppressed the anger in her heart. She still had a sweet smile on her face and her indistinct gaze fell on Su Rui with slight grievance. I just came to Su Fu to visit eldest young master, but third miss directly splashed water all over me. Now, she even humiliated me in front of so many people. Is this how your Su family treats guests? Chem. That happened. Su Rui lifted his brows hearing Zhao Weining's words. My wife is used to pouring water at the door every morning. You're unlucky to be standing there. Plus, you clearly attacked first, right? You even used a hidden weapon to hurt people. Does everyone from Zhao family act like this when they visit other people's homes? Su Rui retaliated without batting an eyelid. Then he waved his hand again and a short blade appeared in his hand. This was the king's blade. Another divine weapon. Feeling the murderous aura from the weapon, Zhao Weining immediately took a step back in fear. Su Zhan, what are you doing? Nothing. Su Rui smiled. Since Miss Zhao is questioning our Su family's way of treating guests, then I'll let you see how I, Su Zhan, truly treat guest. Saying this, Su Rui had already taken out the king's blade and headed straight for Zhao Weining. That's how short weapons are played. Streaks of silver light flashed and Zhao Weining screamed. When the king's blade returned to Su Rui's hand, there were pieces of clothing scattered all over the courtyard. Right now, Zhao Weining was no longer dressed in rags. Instead, she was naked. Su Rui turned around and leaned his face against Su Wan's side, raising his hand to cover her eyes. Wife, don't look. It's not suitable for children. Su Wan was speechless. The audience was speechless. Master, you're really a blessing to humanity. Oh my, I can't take it anymore. I'm having a nosebleed. Zhao Weining had never suffered such humiliation in her entire life. Now that she was stripped naked in front of a large group of Su family disciples, she immediately cried out in shock. She covered her chest with both hands and ran away. As she ran, she didn't forget to use her spiritual power to summon her combat soft armor. Watching the white silhouette getting further and further away, everyone in Su family just wanted to say, "You are welcome to visit us every day, Tilda. We are very hospitable, Tilda." The news of second young mistress Zhao running naked in the Su residence quickly spread throughout Mate City. What followed was all sorts of gossip. For example, Zhao Weining was Su Ya's illegitimate daughter. For example, Zhao Weining stripped naked to seduce Su Zhan. In short, there was no lack of brains that were good at imagination and imagination in every world. This incident immediately caused the Zhao family to lose all face. The Zhao family patriarch flew into a rage and directly locked his second daughter in a small black room. Without the harassment of a certain female supporting, Su Wan and Su Rui could finally be at ease and busy with their own business in Su family. As the people from each branch arrived one after another, Su Rui directly gathered all the people who wanted to become summoners at Su family's training ground outside the city. In this field, he set up layers upon layers of tests. Only people with great perseverance could pass the tests. After 3 days and 3 nights of selection, only 384 people passed the test. What was worth mentioning was that there were over 20 people who passed the test in Su family village. Su Qing, his brother, and Zhongji were among them. Zhongji had changed his name to Suji now. After the initial selection, Su Rui and Su Wan tested everyone's mental power. Other than over 100 people who had weak mental powers, the remaining people all had higher mental powers than ordinary people. Actually, the mainstream summoners on the mainland relied on absorbing the spiritual influence of heaven and earth after successfully activating the spiritual power to cultivate and advance. They didn't need a heaven-defying mental power, but they needed meridians that could hold enough spiritual influence. People like them could absorb spiritual influence quickly, so naturally, they would advance quickly too. People like Su Qing and the others who were born with thin meridians would become useless people with poor aptitudes on this mainland. It wasn't that their aptitudes were poor. It was just that the cultivation methods on the mainland were simple and there weren't any secret methods suitable for them to cultivate. Now that Su Rui passed the Yuling chant to them, he believed that Su family would possess the strongest summoner army soon. Half a month later. I'm finally out. Su Wu had been locked in the meditation room by Su Rui for an entire month. Without any cultivation resources, she still forcefully increased her rank to the peak of a rank 8 summoner. She was about to advance to rank 7. Pretending to be weak to eat a tiger and keeping a low profile was the main character's way. After Su Wu came out of the meditation room, she returned to her courtyard to take a comfortable bath and rest for a bit. Then she thought about going to Su Zhan's place to see Little White. In the end, when she arrived at Su Zhan's residence and saw the enormous creature in the courtyard, Su Wu froze. "Where's my cute and adorable Little White?" "Little White, Xiao Wu, be good. This divine beast is here. Come, more." Tilda they hadn't seen each other for a month. Suddenly seeing Su Wu's figure, Little White immediately pounced on her and pushed her to the ground. "My Xiao Wu smells the best. She's natural and has no additives. Hey, stop messing around. Get lost." Su Wu struggled to get up from the ground and looked at Little White with a complicated gaze. "You're Little White. You undid the seal?" Little White looked at Su Wu reluctantly. Xiao Wu, be good. I've already recognized your brother as my master. You won't be mad at me, right? I really want to wait for you, but it's fine." Su Wu interrupted Little White softly. "A fine bird chooses a good tree to nest in. Brother is indeed a rare genius." Before transmigrating to this world, Su Wu was an assassin with no family, no lover, and no friends. She didn't feel sad when she died. Those who kill will be killed. When an assassin entered the world, they knew what their fate was. Now that she transmigrated here and had a brand new life, Su Wu had family and friends. She wasn't willing to be ordinary. Everyone had dreams and ambitions. But this wasn't ambition. If a person's ambition was too big, their soul and bottom line would be slowly infiltrated by it and gradually turn black. Su Wu was the person chosen by fate. As the main character of a world, she naturally had a righteous outlook and was a model of passing on positive energy. She was really grateful that Little White gave her a cultivation method. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, she wouldn't bully the weak. At the same time, she wouldn't allow herself to be bullied by others. This was the true reason why she wanted to become stronger. No matter what, people had to rely on themselves. Su Wu had expected that Little White might not be able to follow her forever. Right. In this world, who could follow her until the end of time? Thinking of this, Su Wu's expression was a bit complicated. Little White, where's my brother? Master, Xiao Bai hesitated for a moment before stuttering. Master and Su Wn went to the base outside the city. This month, something happened to the Su family. Actually, it's a Little White weakly told Su Wu everything about the Yuling chant. Su Wu froze for a moment after hearing Little White's words. Then, she smiled faintly. I see. Brother, you're doing this to benefit the continent. Su Wu never thought that Su Zhan would make such a noble decision. After all, to her, the Yuling chant was really precious and couldn't be coveted by others. Yet, Su Zhan was willing to promote it to the entire continent. His breadth of mind was something she couldn't compare to. Little White was speechless. You just didn't see the sinister intentions behind Nissan's righteousness. Poor child. Since that's the case, I'll go to the base outside the city too. I want to be a part of the army too. Su Wu thought about it. Since the Yuling chant was no longer a secret, she could cultivate it openly. This was actually a good thing, right? Su Rui and Su Wan weren't surprised that Su Wu made this choice. After all, she was the female lead of this world. Su Wu was actually very broad-minded. In her past life, she was a cold-blooded killer. In this life, she just wanted to live her life to her heart's content. Su Wan didn't dislike people like this. Therefore, she didn't think of doing anything to Su Wu when she came up with the strategy in the beginning. Seeing that Su Wu came to the training base on her own, Su Wan had a new idea. She decided to put Su Wu and Su Qing in the same group. Su Rui was speechless. Wife, since when did you go from a mission enforcer in charge of breaking up couples to a matchmaker in charge of regrouping couples? Chapter 258. Su family's new summoners had always been training in their family's training ground. Su Qing and his younger brother, Su Chuan, were originally in the same group. After Su Wu came over, she was assigned to their group as well. In the past, Su Wu was a good-for-nothing that everyone looked down on in the Su family. But now, she had the highest cultivation and the highest status in this camp. She was the eldest master's sister and the head of the family's daughter. Who dared to be impudent in front of her? Everyone in the training camp was in awe of Su Wu. On the other hand, Su Qing and his brother got along well with her. Su Chuan was a very simple person. He was used to living in the mountains. Seeing that Su Wu was a girl, he took the initiative to help her, even though Su Wu didn't need his help. But she still liked to get along with people who weren't scheming. As for Su Qing, he looked very gentle and he was a warm guy. Naturally, he got along well with Su Wu. Seeing his relationship with Su Wu getting better and better, the two went from normal teammates to close friends who admired each other. General Su felt that he should be done with this job. Once Su Wu and Su Qing were paired up, the male lead, Xiao Yang, wouldn't have anything to do with it. At this time, the beast horde that was supposed to start a month later erupted in advance. Mate City was in a state of panic when the beast horde attacked. Su Ya had already returned from the imperial capital. His trip to the imperial capital this time was very successful. Not only did Su Ya receive a large amount of rewards from Her Majesty, but he was also given a noble title. From now on, Su family was a noble family of Arinda country. But it was useless. Now that the beast horde was attacking, all noble titles were useless in front of magical beasts. This was the first time Long Qianzhan had gathered all the family heads in Mate City together. At this moment of life and death, Everyone let go of their previous enmity and worked together to defend against the enemy. The beast horde this time was ferocious. Mate City was surrounded by enemies on all sides. The 4 major families in the city were assigned to guard the 4 city walls. Su family was in charge of the eastern city wall. Summoners and warriors from the Mate City's mayor's residence were also guarding the city with the Su family. There were also beginner summoners from smaller families. At this time, no combat power could be wasted. All the new summoners of the Su family also participated in this battle. On the tall city wall, Su Ya wore an advanced summoner's robe and stood against the wind. Su family's elders stood behind him while Su Rui and Su Wn stood in the 3rd row. Behind them were Su family's youngest disciples. Outside the city was a magical beast army that stretched as far as the eye could see. Actually, Mate City was very far from the setting sun mountain range. When the city was built back then, the first city lord probably never thought that such an inconspicuous city would be attacked by a large group of magical beasts one day. These magical beasts had been transported directly from the Sunset Mountains through a special teleportation array, and to be able to activate such an advanced teleportation array, only magical beasts of the 9th rank and above could be activated. A 9th rank magical beast could already transform into a human form. In the setting Sun Mountain range, it could be considered a king. What did such an existence see in Mate City? The original plot didn't mention the reason for this beast tide, but Su Wn and Su Rui looked at each other. The 2 of them already had a plan in their hearts. Why was the beast tide brought forward? What attracted the 9th rank magical beast to go through so much trouble to attack Mate City? It was Little White. It was Little White's divine beast aura. Because Little White recognized Su Rui as his master, he advanced and unlocked his seal earlier. Therefore, the beast tide was brought forward as well. Everyone, listen to my orders. Su Ya, who had been standing at the front silently, finally said, I'll use the Red Lotus to attack in a bit and then all the elders will activate the sword array together. Finally, all the beginner summoners in the family will form small teams and clean up the battlefield in an orderly manner. Yes, Lord. Everyone behind him answered in unison. Su Ya's gaze froze and his silver robe flickered with golden light. In the next moment, he had already jumped down from the city wall. The strong wind caused his robe to flutter. In midair, Su Ya began to gather his spiritual power. As a fiery red spiritual power gathered, a blood-red longsword appeared in the air. Demonic sword, Red Lotus. Lord must have deceived a lot of young ladies with this flashy appearance when he was young, right? Su Wn had a deep understanding of the Lord's narcissistic nature. She couldn't help but whisper in Su Rui's ears. Ah. Su Rui thought for a moment. Perhaps Lord Shu's wife was tricked like this. Su Zhon and Su Wu didn't have a mother since they were young. The Su family had never seen the Lord's wife's face before. But as the female lead's birth mother, how could the Lord's wife be a nobody? That's right. Su Wu's background was really complicated and mysterious. Plus, Su Ya's wife's identity was really prominent too. Of course, this had nothing to do with Su Wan. As soon as the demonic sword appeared, the magical beasts below began to move. Su Ya stood in midair and faced the magical beasts closest to him. He confidently swung the long sword in his hand. Red Lotus, beheading. As the red light flashed, the magical beasts' corpses fell to the ground. Beheading 1,000 people? Deja vu of a hot-blooded male lead. Lord is mighty. Lord is invincible. Everyone in the Su family roared excitedly. It was as if they were injected with chicken blood. Su Rui couldn't help but twitch his eyes. Please. The ones at the front were the lowest level of magical beasts, okay? If Su Ya couldn't even take care of them, how could he be the Lord? Of course, the Lord had to work hard too. He had to kill magical beasts, act cool and also raise morale. In short, do you think it's easy being the Lord? It's very stressful, okay? Charge. The elders' group's sword formation was ready. With a loud shout, a dozen people charged out with Su Ya. Su family's main weapon was the sword. This was also the main reason why Su Ya took a liking to Su Wan. Seeing that the elders were starting to show off, Su Rui smiled at Su Wan and summoned his king's blade. He couldn't use Purple Ming right now. Purple Ming's killing aura was too important. He had to leave it for high-level magical beasts. Plus, the battle had just started. Su Rui didn't want to steal Su Ya's limelight. It wasn't easy for the Lord to be in the limelight. Amidst the sounds of fighting, Mate City's defense battle had begun. This time, under Su Rui's suggestion, Long Qianzhan had activated the Castellan seal in advance to ask for help. As long as everyone could survive the first 2 days, by the third day at the latest, reinforcements should arrive. It was night and the city was brightly lit. Thousands of families couldn't sleep. Outside the city, the sounds of fighting continued. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. Su Wan and Su Rui changed shifts and went home to rest. Both of them were covered in blood. Soaking in the warm and comfortable water, Su Wan finally let out a sigh of relief. Although many people in the Su family were injured today, no one died. But this was only the first day. What would happen tomorrow and the day after? When do you think the reinforcements will arrive? Su Wan couldn't help but turn to look at Su Rui, who was soaking in another bathtub. 3 days at the latest. If they come quickly, they might arrive tomorrow evening. In the original plot, the bestial tide would happen a month later. At that time, due to the intense battle, Long Qianzhan had activated the Castellan seal before dying. It was also because of Long Qianzhan's death that the royal family realized the severity of the situation. That was why the royal family didn't hesitate to spend a large amount of resources to open the transmission array and send the reinforcements over. But this time, due to the changes in the situation, the reinforcements probably wouldn't use the transmission array. Even if they rushed here day and night, it would take at least 2 days, right? The two were discussing this when the door was suddenly pushed open. Su Pei's anxious voice rang through the screen. "Master, third miss, the reinforcements are here." Voila! Su Rui couldn't help but stand up from the water. He pulled a robe and wrapped it around himself. That fast? Are they from the royal family's Summoners Academy? Yes. I heard that it's a group of new students that happen to be training nearby. Master Xiao is in there too. Su Pei quickly answered Su Rui's question. Xiao Yang came back. The male lead was indeed different. The bestial tide refreshed at a different time, but he still managed to come back. Hair. Chapter 259. Outside Mate City. Even though it was late at night, the summoners were surrounded by all sorts of spiritual power fluorescence, making the night look like it was daytime. The Royal Family Summoners Academy's new students were all wearing the same black and gold uniform. Right now, they were in groups of 3 and were fighting against the magical beast army. "Master, you can do it. Master, you're mighty." The cheers came from the south of the city. Xiao family was guarding the south of the city. Ever since Xiao Yang came back, the entire Xiao family was in a state of excitement. Even the summoners who had been fighting for the entire day returned to the battlefield in high spirits. East of the city, Su family's defense camp. Hearing the cheers from the south, Su Ya couldn't help but furrow his brows. "Did you send someone back to inform the master?" "Yes, Lord Patriarch." Behind him was the clan's great elder. Hearing Su Ya's question, he immediately answered in a low voice. "Oh." Su Ya lifted his brows. "What did Jonna say?" Cough. The great elder's expression was a bit awkward. Master sent someone to reply that he and third miss have already washed up and slept. Su Ya was speechless. "Damn it, my son is really different." Cough, cough, "I'm so angry that I'm going to die." Su Ya nodded, pretending to be calm. Then he said solemnly, "Jean is farsighted. Fighting at night replenishes spiritual power slower. Plus, Xiao Yang fought through the night. He might not have the strength to continue tomorrow. Tomorrow is the real battle." The great elder was speechless. "Lord, are you sure that's what Master thinks?" Your ability to lie through your teeth is already maxed out. I admire you tilde. That night, there was another round of slaughter. The next morning, when Su Wn woke up, she was still nestled in Su Rui's arms. She could see her man's unusually handsome face when she looked up. Ah! She had to be woken up by her man's handsomeness every day. She was so proud of herself. You're awake. At this time, Su Rui also opened his eyes, his sleepy voice mixed with hoarse laziness. Yes. Su Wan slowly got up and frowned somewhat uncomfortably. Although the doors in the room were closed, too many magical beasts had died in yesterday's day and night of fighting. The unpleasant smell of blood had already filled the entire city. At this time, she could smell the unpleasant smell in the air from her room. Even if it was very faint, it still made people feel uncomfortable. Not feeling well? On the bed, Su Rui put on his clothes while looking at Su Wn with concern. It's nothing. Su Wn shrugged her shoulders. I reckon that the other side will send out a mid-level magical beast today. We're going to fight a tough battle this time. Yeah. Su Rui got off the bed, a sharp aura faintly discernible in his gaze. The ominous sword-purple underworld had finally come into play this time. It was said that once such a ferocious sword drank enough blood, it would possess its own spirituality and become the most supreme divine weapon. Ziming, this time, I'll let you eat until you're full. The morning sun was still dazzling, but the inside and outside of Mate City was a mess. Countless medical teams and civilians had gathered in the city. They were actively applying medicine and bandaging the wounds of the wounded. On the city walls, the summoners were still fighting. The bright morning sun dyed the area outside the city red. The corpses of the magical beasts that had died yesterday had been trampled into mud by the magical beasts that had just arrived. The scene was too horrible to look at. When Su Rui and Su Wn walked side by side to the Su family's defensive position, Su Ya was still holding a red lotus and attacking from a distance with a large group of elders. Seeing his tired face, Su Rui's gaze flickered. He walked up and patted Su Ya's shoulder. Father, rest for a bit. Jean. Su Ya snapped out of his trance and saw the refreshed Su Rui behind him. Damn brat, you finally know how to care for your father. A new group of magical beasts is coming soon. Right now, Su Rui didn't see Su Ya's excited expression. His gaze was fixed on the black cloud-like group of magical beasts. His tone was much more serious than usual. This group of magical beasts is really strong. You guys aren't their match, so you guys should take this chance to rest. Su Ya was speechless. So I'm being looked down on by my son? Jean, your father is an advanced summoner too. Su Ya couldn't help but straighten his imposing body, letting Su Rui see his advanced summoner's robe. Although he had been a grade 2 summoner for many years, he was still a genuine advanced summoner. I know. Su Rui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Father, you've been fighting for a day and a night already. I know you're capable, but the family needs you. You can't fall down now. You need to rest. Yeah, clan leader, rest well. Leave everything to the eldest master and us. The people around them couldn't help but echo Su Rui's words. A country couldn't go a day without a ruler. A large family couldn't go a day without a clan leader's management either. Perhaps Su Ya didn't look reliable, but in the eyes of the Su family, their clan leader was definitely the best and most reliable clan leader in the world. There was no one else like him. He was reliable when he turned off his phone. He was able to withstand danger. He was able to withstand life and death. Hearing everyone's voices, Su Ya nodded. Okay. Jean, I'll leave everything to you and Xiao Wan. After this battle ends, father will marry you too. By then, our Su family will definitely hold a banquet and be lively for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay. Our clan leader is mighty. Hearing Su Ya's words, the Su family's camp cheered again. The people who were tired from the night before were energized again. Okay. Seeing that the Su family's morale was high, Su Rui leaped onto the highest point of the city wall. Su family's men who fought last night don't participate in the battle. Brothers, just stand here and cheer for me. I, the eldest master, will use the blood of these magical beasts to propose to Xiao Wan. If I don't kill all of these magical beasts, I, Su Zhan, won't get married. Saying this, Su Rui's spiritual influence surged. The violent spiritual power made the people around him narrow their eyes. Purple light appeared and the ominous sword was born. The moment the ominous sword, Purple Ming, was summoned, it automatically flew out of Su Rui's palm. The smell of fresh blood was Purple Ming's favorite smell. Kill, 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 kill. There was nothing more delicious than fresh blood in this world. There was nothing more exciting than killing. The bloodthirsty ominous sword let out an excited hum as it danced among the magical beasts, killing endlessly. Blood flowed like a river. On the city wall, Su Wei hadn't left yet. He quietly watched the lone silver-white figure within the surging magical beasts. Within the countless magical beasts, he seemed so insignificant yet so imposing. Master. Invincible. Master. Invincible. Everyone in the Su family's cheers floated above Mate City and continuously spread throughout the center of the city. It was different from Xiao Yang's fight last night. Today, Su Rui was only one person, one sword. He wanted to fight against the entire magical beast horde on the east side of the city by himself. How crazy was this? Right now, Xiao Yang and the others had been fighting for the entire night and were about to return to the city to rest. Hearing Su family's cheers, Xiao Yang couldn't help but walk to the east gate. Right now, the group of people behind Xiao Yang also stared blankly at the graceful yet bloodthirsty person outside the city. Xiao Yang, that's Su Zhan. The people who came with Xiao Yang were naturally his good friends in school. They had heard Xiao Yang mention Su Zhan before and knew that Su Zhan was a genius in Mate City. But what kind of monstrous person could there be in a small city? Needless to say, the people in the imperial capital were all arrogant and conceited. But seeing Su Rui's fighting style, they couldn't help but tremble with fear at his crazy killing. At this time, a cold and elegant young lady in the crowd couldn't help but snort. He didn't participate in the battle last night. He's naturally full of energy and spiritual power in the morning. I reckon he'll be back in less than 2 hours. Why is he pretending to be a hero? That's right, that's right. Senior Sister Yoon is right. Hearing the young lady's words, the people around her couldn't help but agree as well. They were all geniuses of their respective families. They didn't want to believe that there was a genius who was 100 times more powerful than them among their peers. This wasn't logical. Su Zhan. Chapter 260. The scorching sun at noon burned people's eyes. The battle outside Mate City was still ongoing. Right now, a large group of people had gathered in the Su family's camp. Xiao Yang and the Royal Family Summoners Academy's people were all there. 4 hours had passed since morning. The corpses of magical beasts outside the city had piled up into a mountain, but Su Rui's silver robe was still spotless. From disbelief in the beginning to shock, and now, the Royal Family Summoners Academy students were numb. Nani? He wasn't a genius. He was a pure monstrous genius. Su Rui's battle didn't just shock the students. Even the other family's patriarchs and even the city lord, Long Qianzhan, who had taken the time to rest, couldn't help but be attracted by the Su family's shouts. Seeing the man and the sword and the corpses on the ground, everyone's expressions changed. Of course, compared to the other families, the Su family was happy from the bottom of their hearts. Especially the beginner summoners who had just come from the branch. Su Rui was the one who gave them the Yuling chant, giving them the chance to become summoners and experts. Now, Su Rui was showing off his power in front of them again. This man's figure was deeply imprinted in everyone's hearts. Even Su Chuan, who wasn't willing to admit that Su Zhan was really powerful, was captivated by Master Su's charm and became a hardcore fan. While everyone was staring at Su Rui, only Su Qing glanced at Su Wn silently. From morning until now, she had maintained the same posture, quietly standing by the wall. Her eyes had never left Su Zhan's figure. There was no joy, no panic, no anxiety, and no excitement. Su Wan's gaze gently and attentively fell on that person. From beginning to end, she seemed to be so persistent and firm in believing in him. Was this how they felt about each other? For a moment, Su Qing felt a bit sad but also gratified. When the sun set and the red clouds illuminated the entire Mate City, Su Rui was the only one standing quietly on the eastern side of the city. There were millions of corpses beneath his feet. The so-called killing a person within 10 steps and invincible within 1,000 miles was nothing more than this. Under the setting sun, Su Rui quietly turned around. His deep and charming eyes quietly met Su Wan's eyes. The two people looked at each other for a long time. Until Su Rui once again soared into the air. The spiritual power around him surged and pieces of spiritual clouds rapidly gathered above his head. This was the sign of advancing to a Grade 1 summoner. Patches of spiritual clouds gathered into a huge spiritual explosion that enveloped the sky above Mate City. Moreover, it kept spreading in all directions. At that moment, the spiritual pressure that descended from the sky actually made the magical beasts around Mate City retreat. At this moment, the battles in the other 3 directions were forced to stop. The moment Su Rui released the demonic aura, Little White suddenly scuttled out of his room. He couldn't help but look at the sky that had changed color. This aura, this feeling is a demon? Before it could react, the spiritual clouds in the sky dissipated, and the Grim Reaper's scythe descended. Feeling the heavy and despairing aura of death, Little White couldn't help but take a few steps back. Who could actually summon an ancient divine weapon? This was definitely different from the so-called divine weapons in Dongchuan's mainland. This was something that a true god had once used. The moment the sickle of death appeared, a blond man in the faraway Sunset Mountains suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his face incomparably pale. "King, what's wrong?" The high-level magical beasts all gathered around and looked at the golden-haired man sitting cross-legged in the teleportation circle with concern. "It's a god." "No, it's a demon." A trace of fear flickered through the man's golden eyes. He used his blood to draw a few golden runes on the teleportation array. Following his low roar, the magical beasts outside Mate City all retreated like a tide. "You want to leave after taking advantage of us?" Su Rui had already grasped the sickle of death in his hands after seeing through the other's intentions. Right now, he floated in midair and a strange purple aura flashed through his black eyes. "Since you're here, then stay. No matter who you are, I'll let you know that not everyone has the right to touch Mate City." As the sickle of death swung down, the dark aura of death enveloped the sky within 100 miles of Mate City. A sharp black light flashed past, and the entire magical beast army outside the city turned into white bones in an instant. The golden-haired man who was far away in the Sunset Mountains was also injured by the black light that flew out from the teleportation formation, and once again spat out a large mouthful of golden blood. When the black light dissipated, the world returned to its original color. Everyone in Mate City was dumbfounded at the sight of the white bones outside the city. He killed all the magical beasts with one move. "Master Su, did your universe explode?" Chapter 261. Due to Su Rui's heaven-defying advancement, the battle in Mate City ended early. The 4 major families started sending people to clean up the battlefield. By the time the royal family's reinforcements arrived, the entire city had recovered its peace and cleanliness. The entire city's atmosphere was lively. Su residence was even more crowded and bustling. The leader of the reinforcements sent by the royal family just so happened to be the Royal Family Summoners Academy's intermediate teacher, Yun Fan. He was also Yun Ling's uncle. He heard about Master Su from his niece and found out that there was such a monstrous genius hidden in this small city. Yun Fan was excited. This was like a meat pie falling from the sky. As long as he could summon him back to the academy, it'd definitely be a great achievement. The principal would definitely be really happy and he'd be one step closer to being promoted. Just as Yun Fan thought about his future and brought a group of students to visit the Su family, he was told that Master Su was in seclusion and wouldn't see anyone. Yun Fan was speechless. He was in seclusion right after advancing? This didn't make sense. Cough, Teacher Yun. Seeing that Yun Fan was suspicious of Su family's words and was about to charge into Su Zhan's courtyard with a cold expression, Xiao Yang, who was familiar with Su family's situation, couldn't help but take a step forward and whisper in Yun Fan's ears. What exactly was Master Su's so-called seclusion? It wasn't a secret in Mate City. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, Yun Fan was dumbfounded. Nani? Please forgive him for being ignorant. He'd lived for half his life, but this was the first time Yun Fan heard that someone could advance while doing something. Plus, he could advance so quickly and in such a monstrous manner. Okay. Since your family's master is, in seclusion, then I'll visit another day. Yun Fan awkwardly brought a group of people and left majestically. When he left, he happened to bump into Su Wu and Su Qing, who had just returned from training. In the original plot, Yun Fan was the one who came to support Su Wu. He was the one who had discerning eyes and discovered Su Wu, the future genius main character. Unfortunately, Yun Fan was too preoccupied with Su Zhan's matter that he didn't notice the female lead who brushed past him. On the contrary, Xiao Yang's gaze brightened when he saw Su Wu. He hesitated, wanting to go up and talk to her. Unfortunately, Su Wu had been chatting with Su Qing the entire time. She didn't see the male lead who brushed past her. Xiao Yang. After they left, Su Qing paused and glanced at Su Wu. That was Master Xiao, right? He seemed to have something to say to you. Su Qing had always been a meticulous person. He had long noticed Xiao Yang's hesitation. You mean Xiao Yang? I have nothing to say to him. Su Wu couldn't help but shrug when she heard Su Qing's words. Oh. Hearing Su Wu's words, Su Qing nodded silently. During this period of interaction, Su Qing and the others had gradually integrated into the Su family. Although the summoners in the Su family looked down on them in the beginning and called their training ground useless training camp behind their backs, everyone had done their best in the beast tide this time. Right now, Su Qing was already a level 8 summoner while Su Wu had advanced to level 7 a long time ago. They were no longer good-for-nothings. They were now respectable summoners. After fighting side by side this time, the direct descendants of the Su family began to gradually accept them, and no one looked down on them anymore. Although Su Qing knew that he was far from being a genius compared to Su Zhan, he had finally started a brand new life for himself. The two walked side by side and unknowingly arrived outside Su Rui's courtyard. Xiao Wu, be good. A huge figure suddenly pounced over. Su Wu didn't expect this and was almost knocked down by Little White. Thankfully, Su Qing was quick and helped her up. Are you okay? Su Qing looked at Su Wu a bit worriedly. Su Wu smiled helplessly. I'm fine. Little White, you're getting heavier and heavier. Little White was speechless. This divine beast is actually being looked down on? Wait, I think I'm paying attention to the wrong direction. Who is this pretty boy? Why is he standing so close to my Xiao Wu? He even dared to hold her waist just now? Who are you? Little White circled to the side and looked at Su Qing with hostility. Su Qing was speechless. Everyone in the Su residence knew that the young master had a pet that could talk. Now that Little White was full of hostility towards him, Su Qing was confused. I'm Su Qing, and you're Little White. Su Qing. Hearing Su Qing's words, Little White glanced at him suspiciously. Why did this name sound so familiar? It seemed like... Little White suddenly lifted his two front paws and shouted excitedly, your master's love rival. Love rival. Su Qing's expression turned awkward. Su Wu looked at Su Qing playfully and said, Chem? Brother Su Qing, so you like Sister Xiao Wu? No. Actually, we're just neighbors. Su Qing scrambled to explain for a long time, and his face turned red from holding it in. Su Wu's gaze flickered and she couldn't help but laugh. No wonder elder brother insisted on putting me in your group. As soon as Su Wu said this, Su Qing's expression turned even more distressed. Everyone knew what Master Su was thinking. Su Wu was speechless about her elder brother's little scheme. Love and friendship were different. No matter if it was spending time together or being in a favorable position, if there wasn't a feeling of being moved, Any interaction would be futile. Su Wu could tell that Su Qing still liked Su Wn. Even if he hid his feelings deep down, Su Wu still noticed it with her sharp eyes. This man's expression was rare. He was a rare good person. Unfortunately, he wasn't her type. Inside the residence, in the bedroom. Although Su Rui was in the room, he spread his spiritual power and heard everything that happened in the residence clearly. He wasn't surprised that Yun Fan came. In the original plot, Su Zhan hadn't advanced to a grade 1 summoner yet because he hadn't recovered his true memories. In the end, he naturally followed Yun Fan, Su Wu, and Xiao Yang into the royal family's summoners academy. In the academy, he did his best to protect his sister, and his relationship with Su Wu grew better and better. This led to him still being unable to let go of Su Wu even after he recovered his true memories a year later. Actually, he could have left Arinda country at that time. With his original cultivation, there were very few who could rival him in the entire Dongchuan mainland. But for his beloved girl, he actually chose to silently become a grade 1 summoner. He accompanied and protected her all the way until Su Wu and Xiao Yang got together. He still wished them well as her older brother. The so-called affectionate supporting male lead was a synonym for suffering and moronic. What are you thinking about? Su Wan leaned against Su Rui's ears and whispered. Hearing his wife's voice, Su Rui's gaze darkened and he smiled. I'm thinking. I'm a demon. Now that I've formed a contract with Little White, what do you think he'll do if he finds out that I'm a demon one day? Ah. Su Wan blinked. In the original plot, Su Zhan had been hiding his identity for the sake of love. No one had discovered his identity. But now, at least, the king of magical beasts in the Sunset Mountains knew his true identity now. Even if he knows you're a demon, he can't do anything. Su Wan could see Little White's true nature clearly. That foodie had no integrity and would do anything to anyone. Su Rui smiled and kissed the corner of her eyes. Wife, father is going to help us get married in a few days. I'm so happy that I can marry you again. Su Wan was speechless. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.